Chapter 3781. Because they were in the food business, they would call a few families over for a gathering when they had nothing to do. Every time they came, they would bring their families along. With the adults and children coming together, the 5 families could eat quite a lot. When they left, they would take some cigarettes and alcohol, as well as the delicious dishes. When they came, they were empty-handed, but when they left, they were full of bags. It was a delightful meal. Even feeding a dog would cause it to develop feelings, right? Could it be because of this that these people thought that his family was rich and stupid? He would not hold any more gatherings in the future. The food he ate could be used to do business and earn money. He gave it to them, but they didn't remember his kindness. Wen Kongxing felt wronged. Ning Shu looked at Wen Kongxing's expression and said, "They always think that we owe them something." Wen Kongxing was a warm person. He liked to call people over for a meal when he had nothing to do. Everyone was probably used to it. If he stopped the banquet, these people would probably feel resentful. It was as if this was what Wen Kongxing should do. If one day, a person gave an egg to another person every day. Suddenly, one day, the person gave the egg to someone else and did not give it to him. This person would be furious and feel that something he should have was taken away from him. He would forget that this thing originally belonged to someone else, and now that someone else was taking it back. However, the resentment in the person's heart would not let him think that this thing originally belonged to someone else. He had been enjoying it and suddenly it was gone. He would not feel resentful. Not only would he not thank the person for giving the egg to him, he would also resent the person for not giving it to him. He was used to it. When Kongxing said that he borrowed money from his friends, but it was just an excuse. He withdrew 100,000 from the bank, but he did not immediately give the money to Madame Chen. He gave it to her too early and thought that the 100,000 came easily. Besides, it would take some time for him to gather money from his friends. He couldn't expose this lie. Sometimes, people had to lie to those close to them. Otherwise, trouble would come at them like a tidal wave. They did not interact with strangers, so they would not lie to strangers. It seemed that all the families had the same idea. Madame Chen had urged them several times, but all of them said that they were still raising money and would be done soon. Even though she said she was going to pay, Madame Chen didn't see a single cent. She immediately got angry. "How much money do you have on hand? Hurry up and hand it over. It's time to pay." When Kongxing asked Ning Shu, "Do you think we should hand in all of it, or hand in a portion first?" "My opinion is to hand in half of it first. When the kidney source is confirmed, we can hand in the rest." Ning Shu nodded. "I have no objections. I'll listen to you." Handing over a portion of the money was to create the illusion that they were raising money. If they handed it over in one go, it would not give them the satisfaction of handing over a little bit at a time and handing over a few more times. Moreover, it was not certain whether the kidney source could be confirmed. If there was no way to perform the surgery by then, the money would not be returned. After all, they had written an IOU, so the money was owed to the Zhang family. Speaking of which, when he wrote the IOU, he should have written that he would not perform the surgery and that the money should be returned. Sigh, it was too late to say that now. It was impossible to get the IOU back from Madame Chen, unless the 100,000 yuan was paid off. Putting oneself in other people's shoes, everyone was thinking for themselves. With Madame Chen's words, the few families began to hand over the money. When Kongxing felt that he was too naive. He had given 50,000 yuan, which was the most out of all of them. The Dalian brothers had only given 10,000 yuan. 10,000 yuan. The third brother-in-law had given 20,000 yuan, while Zhang Jun had given 40,000 yuan. When Kongxing was speechless. He felt that he had stood out again. These people were more shameless than he had imagined. Ning Shu was also speechless. He said to Madame Zhang, "Mom, we only managed to borrow this much for now. The next payment might be a little less. Madame Jeanne looked at the 10,000 yuan that her son-in-law had given her and immediately said sarcastically, "You can even take out 10,000 yuan. Don't you find it embarrassing? I don't care if you want to renege on the 100,000 yuan or if you really don't have the money. You better gather the money. Otherwise, I can take this IOU and sue you. Don't think about dragging it out. Let's just forget about this." From a certain point of view, Madame Chen was still the older the wiser. She understood her sons and daughters well and knew what they were going to do. Her son-in-law's face was so dark that it couldn't be looked at. He glared at his wife, Chen Fonying. She was the one who said to give less. If they really couldn't take it out, someone would pay for it. Kidney sources were hard to come by. If they missed it, there would be no other way. If they didn't have enough money, someone would be anxious and pay for it. Perhaps Madame Chen would pay for it herself. Just because Madame Chen didn't pay didn't mean she didn't have money. Now that he looked at it, what was the point of paying for it? Instead, he was embarrassed in front of so many people. He even said that he would take the IOU to court. How sullen. When did he owe so much money? Probably because Ning Shu had given the most money. Madame Chen's attitude towards Ning Shu was slightly more amiable. She asked Ning Shu how the business was going, and to take care of his body and not be too tired. The scene was quite heartwarming. Ning Shu answered all of her questions. Madame Chen asked her son, "Where did you get the money?" In reality, each family took out 100,000, but Madame Chen was the one who took out Chen Jun's money. This time, Chen Jun took out 40,000, which made Madame Chen overjoyed. Probably because she had the lowest expectations for her son's little change made Madame Chen very happy. It was normal for her second daughter's family to take out 50,000. After all, they made a lot of money. But Chen Jun was different. He had always been an unemployed person in everyone's heart. Now that they found out that he wasn't the unemployed person they thought he was, it was a pleasant surprise. With Chen Jun's contribution as the person with the lowest expectations, Chen Jun's family, who had given $10,000, was completely outshone. Madame Chen mocked Chen Jun, "You leave early and come home late every day, but in the end, you don't make as much money as a child at home. Aren't you ashamed? You still have the nerve to say you didn't make any money." Big brother-in-law's face turned ugly. Chen Jun had long regretted taking out $40,000. When he heard Madame Chen comparing him to big brother-in-law, he felt even worse. When the time came, as the son, he would have to take care of the old man. He was afraid that if anything happened in the future, they wouldn't care. They would even say that his brother-in-law made a lot of money, so he could afford it. What the hell could he afford? Chen Jun changed the topic to prevent Madame Chen from nagging. Her nagging made everyone very irritated. They were already unhappy with the money, and now they had to mock her. They felt even worse. To view the new chapter of Zoe, please go to mobile address. Chapter 3782. We only have this much cash at home. Let's go to the bank tomorrow to withdraw some money and slowly gather the rest. We'll definitely be able to gather the money before the operation. This little brother-in-law had always been lazy. As an unemployed man, it was an insult for his mother-in-law to compare him to him. If it wasn't for the IOU, he would have denied it. But with this, his mother-in-law was not stingy. She might really take the IOU and sue them. For money, his mother-in-law could roll on the floor, let alone sue them with the IOU. She was simply righteous. After that, everyone handed over the rest of the money. It was clear that they had money on hand, but they just couldn't bear to take it out. Time and time again, it was as painful as cutting flesh. Ever since they found out that Ning Shu wanted to donate, very few people came to their house. Especially when Ning Shu was in front of them, they scattered when they saw Ning Shu. They were afraid that Ning Shu would take his clothes and kneel down to sell himself to save his father for the donation. Even if they gossiped, they did it behind Ning Shu's back. Ning Shu didn't care what these people said about him behind his back. But if they dared to gossip in front of him, he would make them suffer. When it came to things like shame, who cared about it would suffer. Sometimes, it was better to live without shame. Madame Chen's wish came true, but the others weren't happy. The eldest and third son-in-law even quarreled in the ward in front of Madame Chen and Father Chen. To be precise, they were deliberately looking for trouble. The two sons-in-law complained about their wives, nitpicking, and looking for trouble. The atmosphere was not harmonious. Ning Shu and Wen Kongsheng didn't have time to quarrel. The palace was so busy, how could they waste time quarreling? And quarreling affected their fortune. As for the two sons-in-law scolding Chen Fengying and Chen Aimei, saying that they were lazy at home, didn't work, didn't clean the house, and couldn't even take care of their children well, Madame Chen's eyelids twitched. If you want to quarrel, go home. I've already given you the money. If you make your father feel uncomfortable and something goes wrong with the surgery, the money will be wasted. Let's see what you're going to do. The two sons-in-law felt uncomfortable holding it in. Their chests were suffocating. This feeling was that they were inferior to others even though they had given them money. He didn't know where to vent his anger, and it was extremely uncomfortable. Originally, the two of them deliberately made a scene in front of the mother-in-law and father-in-law, but the other party didn't feel anything at all. They didn't care at all even if they angered themselves. What people cared about was whether they had money or not. As for whether the husband treated his daughter well or not, he didn't care at all. She was quite hard-hearted, but whenever there was a problem, she would use her benefactor as an excuse. When we talk about responsibility in love, we talk about responsibility. When we talk about love, we talk about responsibility. Whatever works, we talk about. Madame Chen's words were also very simple: make as much noise as you want, but don't affect Father Chen's operation. The two sons-in-law were so angry that they wanted a divorce on the spot. However, the price of a divorce was too high. They couldn't really divorce, so they were hesitant. They were mad with anger. Who knew if it was because Ning Shu and Wen Kongsheng had been spendthrifts for too long, or if they were really broad-minded, but they weren't as angry as the other families. They did what they needed to do, and even launched a one-person pot. They could make a lot of money by delivering food to the white-collar workers in the office every day. How could they have the time? If they did business for a few more months, they would get that 100,000 yuan back. Money could cure all pain and hypocrisy. When people were unhappy, they would think about eating. The shrewd third brother-in-law called Wen Kongsheng and asked him when they wanted to get together. They had been under too much pressure recently, and they wanted to have a drink together. Usually, when he said this, he wanted to have a meal together at a hot pot restaurant. Wen Kongsheng refused expressionlessly, saying that the restaurant was busy and there was no time for a meal together. He had borrowed money from his friends. It was very stressful to earn money, so he had to work harder. If they wanted to get together, could they do it at your house this time? The third brother-in-law ended the conversation by rambling on, implying that Wen Kongsheng was stingy and was afraid that he would come over to eat. Wen Kongsheng had already expected this situation, so he wasn't angry at all. He calmly hung up the phone. If someone called to order food at this time, wouldn't that delay him from making money? People who didn't matter should just die. Now that the kidney source had been confirmed, the hospital had already decided on the day of the operation. When it was time for the operation, several families waited outside the operating room. A kidney transplant was a fairly major operation, and the chances of failure were relatively high. Ning Shu also didn't know if Father Chen's operation would be successful. After all, in the plot, Chen Lihong was forced to get a divorce and take the surgical gown, and in the end, Chen Lihong committed suicide by jumping off a building. Father Chen definitely couldn't have the operation because he didn't have the money. With Ning Shu's operation this time, he had the surgery fee, but he didn't know if it would be successful. Mother Chen sat in a chair in a daze, her soul in a daze. No one spoke. The atmosphere was stagnant, like thick ink that couldn't be dissolved, making it difficult to breathe. Everyone involuntarily held their breaths. When Kongsheng went out to buy some water and food for everyone. When Kongsheng unscrewed the cap for Ning Shu and said in a low voice, "Drink some water, it'll be fine." The operation went on for 6 hours, during which time nurses went in and out with blood bags. No one dared to go up and ask how Father Chen was doing. Ning Shu used his mental strength to take a look at the operation. It was bloody and Father Chen was unconscious. Ning Shu hurriedly withdrew after one look, because his mental strength had actually affected some of the precision instruments. Ning Shu didn't dare act rashly. It wouldn't be good if something unexpected happened. A group of people stood or sat outside the operating room, pacing and waiting anxiously. At this point, everyone hoped that Father Chen's operation would be successful. After all, they had spent the money. Finally, the lights in the operating room went out. Everyone crowded around the operating room and waited for the door to open. The doctor came out and took off his mask. Mother Chen's voice was hoarse as she asked in a sobbing voice, "Doctor, how's my old man?" The operation was successful, but he still needs to be well maintained. There'll be a rejection. In the end, it wasn't something in his body, so he would definitely reject it. Mother Chen exhaled and immediately clasped her hands together, thanking Bodhisattva and the doctor. Mother Chen didn't really care about the follow-up maintenance or rejection. She felt that Father Chen's illness would be cured after the kidney transplant. After all, he had gotten a good kidney, which solved his illness at the root. Ning Shu didn't relax at all. He watched Father Chen's sallow face as he was pushed out of the operating room. The rejection would be the biggest challenge. Moreover, Father Chen was old, and no one knew how he would recover after such a major operation. In short, Father Chen's operation was a success, but the challenges ahead were even greater. Looking at Mother Chen's relaxed expression, Ning Shu didn't say anything. To view the new chapter of Zoe, please go to mobile address. Chapter 3783. Even if she said it, she wouldn't be able to get anything good out of it. Madame Chen would even say, "Can't you hope for something good for your father? You're already complaining right after the operation." It was better to let the doctor do this. Madame Chen would listen to the doctor, not her. There was still some money left after the operation, which had to be saved for the follow-up maintenance and medicine. The doctor called the families to the office and told them about the rejection and some sequelae. When Madame Chen heard that she had to take medicine every day, she was instantly annoyed. Didn't they say that he would be fine after the kidney transplant? Why did she still have to take medicine? The doctor repeatedly explained to Madame Chen that the kidney transplant could resolve Father Chen's illness, but it didn't mean that he would be fine after the transplant. The doctor explained until there was nothing left to live for, and Madame Chen finally understood that the kidney transplant didn't mean that Father Chen would become a lively and healthy person. But it was better than lying in a hospital bed. Madame Chen sighed. She didn't know how many anti-rejection demons she would have to eat in the future. Her heart was stifled. But it was worth it for Father Chen to live longer than before. The third son-in-law rejoiced in his heart that he had written an extra line when he wrote the IOU back then. Otherwise, the follow-up maintenance and medicine would have cost a lot of money. If this went on, they really wouldn't be able to live. The operation was a success, and everyone relaxed. Father Chen would recover very quickly if he took good care of himself. It was just that he would have to stay in the hospital for a while. Ning Shu and Chen Jun gave the caregivers a raise so that they would have to work harder and take care of Father Chen. Father Chen's situation was more dangerous now. Ning Shu told Wen Kongsheng that he would have to stay in the hospital for a while until the situation got better. Wen Kongsheng didn't say anything else. After all, this was a special time. Even if the money wasn't spent in vain, they should take good care of Father Chen. After staying in the hospital for a few days, Father Chen woke up and found out that his kidney had been replaced. There was a weak smile on his face. He was clearly very happy. It was a very happy and fortunate thing to be alive. Father Chen actively cooperated with the treatment, and his condition improved day by day. But he was old after all, and his recovery was slower. Most importantly, there was a rejection reaction in his eyes. This rejection reaction was very fatal, and was something that everyone who underwent organ transplants had to go through. If there was a foreign object in the body would reject it, and then it would become red and swollen. Father Chen had a low fever and his body continued to heat up, which made him even weaker. Later on, he began to vomit and lose his appetite. Madame Chen was worried sick. Every day, she would nag at his bedside, "Old man, you have to hang in there. You spent so much money, can't it buy your life? Don't let that money go to waste. You've worked so hard for so long. Don't drop the ball at the crucial moment." Of course, Father Chen wanted to live and persevere, but his body wasn't up to him, there was nothing he could do about it. It was unbearable. He took his medicine on time every day. Even if he didn't have a good appetite, he still had to eat something to survive. But Father Chen was peeing blood, which clearly wasn't good. The doctor had also said that Father Chen's condition wasn't good. Besides, Father Chen was old, and his recovery from surgery might not be as good as that of a younger person. The rejection reaction was quite strong. Hearing these words, Madame Chen silently wiped her tears. Unexpectedly, she didn't shout or make a scene. She held Father Chen's hand and spoke with a gentle expression. Father Chen sighed and said weakly that he was fine. Although no one said anything about Father Chen's condition, they all knew that he might not be able to hold on any longer. He was going to die, and no one dared to say that he shouldn't be treated in front of Madame Chen, otherwise they would be scolded badly. Father Chen's condition worsened day by day, and in the end, he was even less awake. The doctor just shook his head. Everyone knew in their hearts that Father Chen was just stalling for time, it was just a matter of when he would give up. Faced with this situation, no one felt good. Previously, they had been red-eyed and red-faced over money. Seeing Father Chen like this, they all felt bad. Ning Shu had also transferred the spirit energy that he had painstakingly gathered during this period into Father Chen's body. The main reason was that there wasn't much spirit energy in the modern world. The pollution in the city was serious, and it really wasn't easy to get spirit energy. Ning Shu had saved up this bit for a long time. If he went to a sparsely populated place, there might be a lot of spirit energy, but there would be too many things to do and he wouldn't be able to go. After giving all the spirit energy to Father Chen, it was now up to Father Chen's luck, he had already worked hard. As for the rest, Ning Shu was also a little powerless. He used his mental power to examine Father Chen's body. His only kidney was now very red and swollen, it was the size of 2 kidneys. Even if it was a good kidney, in this situation, it would probably be wasted. Ning Shu scratched his head. How could he solve this situation? Right now, Father Chen probably wouldn't be able to absorb the spirit energy even if he ate an immortal pill. This newly swapped kidney was completely useless, and it even affected Father Chen's body. But if this kidney was removed, Father Chen wouldn't be able to live without a kidney. Now that he was riding a tiger, it was hard to get off, and he couldn't remove the kidney. Ning Shu shook his head. This was difficult. Father Chen persisted for half a month, and in the end, his whole body was swollen. Because his kidneys couldn't excrete the water in his whole body was swollen and glistening. Even his eyelids were swollen. Father Chen passed away in a coma, he hadn't even been able to say a few words to his family. Mother Chen was in a daze as tears streamed down her face. She clutched Father Chen's swollen hand and wouldn't let go. She stumbled next to the hospital bed and cried. How am I supposed to live if you pass away like this? What if other people bully me? How can I live well without you? Your child is being bullied and called a fatherless child. You haven't even seen your son get married or your grandson yet. Don't you feel bad and guilty? Damn old man. Ning Shu, although he felt sad, Mother Chen's words still baffled Ning Shu. It was normal for people to grow old, get sick, and die. It was normal for them to be sad when their loved ones died. But Mother Chen treated Father Chen as if he should live forever to protect others. Without Father Chen's protection, would a living person become the most pitiful wretch in the world who couldn't even live? It was probably because Father Chen wasn't a person, but a spirit that could be relied on and united everyone with him. Everyone else could die, but Father Chen couldn't. Father Chen's existence was a pillar, and it was as if everyone lived under this pillar. Even if her children were living well now, Mother Chen still firmly believed that without Father Chen, their lives wouldn't be good. Without Father Chen's protection, her daughters and everyone else would live miserably. Who was treating Father Chen for? It was for everyone. To view the new chapter of Zui, please go to mobile address. Chapter 3784. Being alive is more important than anything else. Your father and I gave birth to you. Everything you have was given to you by your parents. Weren't your eyes and kidneys given to you by your parents? I just want your kidney, that's all. Ning Shu finally understood where this uncomfortable feeling came from. Madame Chen didn't see her child as an individual, but as an accessory to her, and everything the child had was given to him by her. The child's hard work, the things they obtained, the things they struggled for, were all given to them by their parents. The child's hard work and sweat weren't worth mentioning, and were all ignored. Because without their parents, there wouldn't be a child today. According to this logic, it was completely normal to donate a kidney. The most unbearable thing was that there was actually no way to refute this logic. It seemed very meticulous, and there was no way to refute it. Taking out this logic chain made people speechless. In fact, this was a robber's logic of emotional kidnapping. But this robber's logic was even more irrefutable than moral kidnapping. This was because one's parents did indeed give birth to and raise them. It was right to be filial to one's parents. But being nagged like this every day, if one didn't have parents, then so be it. Parents' kindness was like the ocean of death, and it was right to give their heart, lungs, and kidneys. It was still a little frightening. In fact, all four of them had been pulled into the matching. From the looks of it, if one of them was matched, their kidneys would be cut off. They were so scared that they were probably all praying in their hearts that they wouldn't be matched. Otherwise, there wouldn't be a result, and they all heaved a sigh of relief. Since the four children weren't matched, Madame Chen even pulled in her three sons-in-law to be matched. The three sons-in-law were scared out of their wits. Compared with the secret sighs of relief of the four children, the three sons-in-law were even more relieved, and directly complained. They said to their wives, "Is your mother crazy? Pulling us into the matching, does she want us to donate our kidneys? She was simply crazy." In short, the three daughters suffered a lot from their in-laws because of Father Chen's illness and surgery. They were afraid that they would have even less right to speak at home in the future. Chen Lihong was fine. After all, she had fought with her husband all the way to where she was today. The two of them had a lot of discussion and a lot of friendship. However, when Chen Fengying and Chen Aimei got married, they were pregnant and had children. They had to take care of the children and do housework. They were full-time housewives, and the responsibility of supporting the family was on their husbands' shoulders. Money determined the right to speak. Chen Aimei and Chen Fengying still had to reach out and ask their husbands for money. After experiencing this incident, he was afraid that she would bring it up from time to time. Whenever there was anything, he had to say it out loud to suppress his wife's arrogance. Chen Aimei wanted to talk back, but Madame Chen glared at her and she immediately shut up. Chen Ai didn't say anything, but Madame Chen wouldn't let her off. Madame Chen kept going on and on about how hard it was for Father Chen to raise them and how he had ruined his health, which was why he had passed away at a young age. He wasn't even 80 years old yet, and he was still a few years away from 70. Chen Ai rolled her eyes and said, "Then those in their teens and 20s who died in car accidents or diseases, don't they all deserve to die? I don't care about other people, but your father worked hard for you all his whole life, his whole life." Madame Chen's tears fell again. Ning Shu said, "Yes, father worked hard for us all his life. We are grateful to him." Talking back to Madame Chen at this time was just asking for trouble. Ning Shu gave Chen Ai a look. Chen Ai pursed her lips and didn't say anything else. Probably in Madame Chen's heart, only Father Chen and Chen Jun were the most important. Her daughter wasn't even a thing. She wasn't even a person. Chen Ai didn't stay for dinner and turned to leave. She really didn't know what she was after. Until now, her husband still ignored her and was still angry. When she came to visit her mother, she was crying and complaining about them, blaming them for her father's death. Neither side was human. What was this called? Uncomfortable. Chen Jun came out of the room to get some water. He was thirsty from the live broadcast. Seeing his three sisters leave in a huff, he knew that Madame Chen must have said something hurtful again. After father passed away, Mom kept nagging and blaming him. She felt that father didn't deserve to die. Chen Jun advised, "Mom, father is already gone. We who are still alive have to live well." The three sisters have always been filial. Don't keep saying things like that and make them feel bad. With the three sisters taking care of him, Chen Jun's life was pretty good. Moreover, when they were free, they would bring things home, if it wasn't meat or vegetables. Sometimes, they would even send rice and noodles. Basically, Chen Jun didn't spend much money. Chen Jun was able to save some money all these years because he didn't spend it. There were people taking care of him, and his sisters were also good to him. Chen Jun didn't want Madame Chen to always say hurtful things and stop them from visiting. Madame Chen said impatiently, "I know, I won't say it. But it's really a pity for your father. Your father passed away before he could enjoy life. After a lifetime of hard work, his child got married and started a family, but in the end, he passed away." Here it came again. Chen Jun sighed. What should he do? Did he want Father Chen to come back to life and blame his children every day? Chen Jun poured some water and went into the house. Madame Chen missed Father Chen now, but after a while, her memories would slowly fade and she would get used to living without him. Chen Jun went into the house and called his three sisters one by one to tell them not to be angry. Now that his mother was in a bad mood, they should try not to visit her in the future. It would be better after a while. Ning Shu received the call and only said one word, "Got it." If they didn't visit for a long time, Madame Chen would have an excuse to blame them. If they didn't come home for a long time, did they think they didn't have a mother anymore? Ning Shu hung up and immediately busied himself with the shop. I've made money, but I don't know how to spend it." Madame Chen always said that without Father Chen, the children would live very miserably. They would be bullied, and without anyone to protect them, they would live miserably. But in fact, everyone was an individual and had to bear the pressure of survival. Father Chen couldn't bear the pain for his children. Father Chen had passed away, but the children's lives were still the same. They weren't bullied like Madame Chen said. This wasn't some chaotic world. Usually, the harm they suffered came from the people close to them. After all, strangers couldn't hurt them. They spent more time with their loved ones and had to bear the hurtful words from them. For example, Madame Chen. Dan Qing's voice rang out in Ning Shu's mind. Mission complete. You've left the mission world. Do you want to proceed to the next mission? Ning Shu nodded. Yes, I'll go directly to the next mission. Do a few more missions at once and loosen up the inventory. Chapter 3786. Translator, Endless Fantasy Translation Editor, Endless Fantasy Translation Translator, Endless Fantasy Translation Editor, Endless Fantasy Translation. From the moment he appeared, the whole world belonged to him. She could do anything for him. That crazy thought of disregarding the harem was just to make him see her. She had a crush on him, but Hu Mingxiu didn't even know Rong Jingbai's name. He wouldn't know that there was someone in the world who had such a crush on him. It was said that one had to fight for love. Even if they failed, at least they had tried. But when she was about to speak, all kinds of worries and timidity in her heart were stronger than death. She had no courage, inferiority complex, and fear. She didn't even have the courage to fight for it. Rong Jingbai even wanted to do plastic surgery to make herself more beautiful to get Hu Mingxiu's attention. But Rong Jingbai was just a student and couldn't afford the high surgery fees. When she went to the hospital to consult, she had to grind her bones, cut her eyelids, and fill her nose. Basically, she had to do a comprehensive plastic surgery. She also had to have beauty injections, hydrotherapy, and Botox injections regularly. Just by listening to it, her family wouldn't agree to it. Moreover, the surgery was too risky. Her family wouldn't agree to it either. It was said that a good relationship would make people better, but it wasn't so. It was easier said than done. Relationships would only make people fall into a relationship that was intertwined with beauty and pain. Timidity, suspicion, retreating, resentment, and disappointment. It wasn't easy to be yourself, let alone become a better person. So Rong Jingbai's wish was to be with Hu Mingxiu, no matter the price. She couldn't ask for it, so she became even more obsessed. She was obsessed with seducing him with one hand. It would be even better if she had intimate contact with Hu Mingxiu. It was probably the kind where she could have sex with him once and have no regrets in her life. Ning Shu asked, why is there such a mission? Dan Qing, love, hatred can have a mission. Love can also have a mission. Regret, grief, hatred, the mission holder's existence is to fulfill their wishes. Ning Shu, oh. What should he do? Ning Shu, Hu Mingxiu's aesthetic is beauty. If you want him to see something, you have to have a good appearance. You say that people who are not good-looking are all kind. On the contrary, people who were not good-looking actually had more pressure and disregard. For good-looking people, no matter what, the people around them were very kind to them. He heard a beautiful girl say that she felt that everyone around her was nice. Everyone would intentionally or unintentionally lend a helping hand. Humans are tolerant of beautiful people and things. However, if one was too beautiful without strength, then beauty would be the original sin. In short, there were two sides to everything. If Rong Jing was beautiful and confident enough, she would not have such a task. Then she would say, then I need to muster up my courage. No, as soon as Rong Jingbai met Hu Mingxiu's eyes, she didn't even have the courage to look him in the eye. Just by saying something insignificant, he could get excited for a long time. She was truly a flower that bloomed in the midst of humility. Don't try to persuade her that there are many men in the world. There are many men in the world, but none of them are the type she likes. Ning Shu thought to himself, I'm finished. How am I going to complete this mission? Was he supposed to flirt with her? He still didn't know Hu Mingxiu. As for her period, Ning Shu felt that she could bring sanitary pads. Conquer with strength. TSK, Hu Mingxiu liked beautiful women. Dan Qing said, the client is willing to give up 90% of her soul power. The remaining 10% will spend the rest of her life with Hu Mingxiu. There will be no next life. Ning Shu sighed. It wasn't that he didn't want to complete the task for her, but he really didn't know how to complete it. But even if the client could really be with Hu Mingxiu, then Rong Jingbai would hold Hu Mingxiu tightly like sand in her hand. In this way, she would also lose Hu Mingxiu. Because she treated Hu Mingxian as the most important person in her life, she would hold on to her only life-saving straw. She would attach her life, happiness, anger, sorrow, and joy to Hu Mingxiu. Then how depressed and painful would Hu Mingxiu be? It would only make people want to escape. Ning Shu could foresee that this was really a tragedy. His head hurt. Of course, he couldn't rule out the possibility that Rong Jingbai would work hard to become better after being with Hu Mingxiu. But after paying such a big price to be with Hu Mingxiu, then Rong Jingbai would have to put all her attention on Rong Jingbai. Even if it was not a person, but a treasure that was hard to get would be treated as a treasure and be especially cherished. The greater the price and capital, the more she would not let go. Ning Shu said, "I'd better not do this task. It'll be my failure." Dan Qing said, "You haven't even started. How can you say that you failed? Even if you fail, you have to do it. This is the most basic integrity as a task taker. If you can't complete it, we'll leave. Work harder. Maybe even if you can't complete it, the client will think it through and your task will be completed. Maybe the client will calm down and think it's not worth it." Ning Shu got up from the bed and went down the bed ladder. He opened his cupboard. There were all kinds of bottles and jars in the cupboard. Ning Shu opened it and smelled it. It was sour. It was white vinegar. The other jars were all powders, such as pearl powder, Atractylodes macrocephala, some herbs, and all kinds of folk remedies. The purpose was to whiten the skin. Rong Jingbai saw all kinds of whitening folk remedies on the internet. She bought all the materials one by one and applied them on her face like an experimental field. Unfortunately, the effect was not great. She didn't know if it was because she was born dark or something else. She used all kinds of things but it didn't work. She didn't know how many whitening creams she used. Whitening didn't make her look much better. It made her skin more sensitive and became sensitive. It stung when she applied something. She usually used vinegar when she had nothing to do and thinned her stratum corneum. Even so, Rong Jingbai didn't throw these things away. In fact, these things were useless. They were all macromolecules. Even if they were ground into powder, they were not very fine and the skin couldn't absorb them. Instead, it added a lot of burden to the skin. Now, her face was rough, dark, and sensitive. Ning Shu thought about it and threw these things directly into the trash can. He felt uncomfortable when he saw them. His roommate saw Ning Shu throw the things away and said, "Rong Jingbai, don't you usually treasure these things the most? Why did you throw them away?" "I don't need them anymore. They're useless, so I threw them away," Ning Shu said. His roommate said, "Didn't I tell you before that these things are useless? It's better to use big-name skincare products. At least it's clean. You can't guarantee your hygiene with self-made things like this." Ning Shu nodded. "You're right." Rong Jingbai was too anxious. She wanted to take a shortcut and become beautiful quickly. That was why she used these folk remedies. She hoped that she would become beautiful in an instant. End of chapter. Chapter 3787. Those branded skincare products did not have any effect. Maintenance was not something that could be achieved in a short period of time. It was not something that could be changed in a short period of time. It had to be changed slowly and maintained slowly. It might be useful over time. Of course, the first thing was to stop this self-harming behavior. Although it was not life-threatening, it was still not good for the body. Actually, he had taken those famous whitening pills before. As for the side effects, he did not know. He had also taken whitening needles before. But the effects only lasted for a short period of time and it hurt his liver. In short, beauty had a price to pay. He had to be ruthless and cut his body or he had to lose weight. Ning Shu walked into the washroom and looked at his face in the mirror. It was a little square and he had phoenix eyes. Phoenix eyes sounded nice, but they were small eyes with single eyelids. This kind of face had a masculine look and gave people the impression that he had a tiger's back and a bear's waist. He was not considered to be pretty. Even if he dressed up, it would not change much. He had to go for surgery. A beautiful appearance could give people strong confidence. The first impression a person had of another person was the face, followed by the figure. As for inner qualities, it had to be supported by a beautiful appearance for people to have the urge to continue digging. A beautiful appearance would decide whether to continue digging deeper. Then, a person's inner qualities would decide whether to deny a person's appearance. Ning Shu sighed and started to wash up. When he was combing his hair, he touched his sparse hair and wiped it up. When he looked at his hairline, he felt uncomfortable. Little hair and big bones. I really can't be considered a beauty. Hair is so precious. I must not lose a single strand. Ning Shu carefully combed his hair. His hair was still greasy. What could he do? He could only wash his hair. But when he washed his hair, a lot of it fell off. Even if it was not Ning Shu's own hair, he felt so distressed that he wanted to cry. My hair, I can't go bald. I can't go bald. This body was probably suffering from endocrine imbalance. So, it was fundamental to take care of the body. When he was washing his hair, Ning Shu gently massaged his scalp. He did not dare to use his fingernails to scratch his scalp. He was afraid that his scalp would be stimulated and his head would fall off from his head. When she was drying her hair, she didn't even dare to blow at her scalp. Instead, she slowly blew at the ends of her hair. When tying a ponytail, try to make it fluffy instead of tight. Firstly, it will make your scalp tense, and secondly, it will make your face look squarish. With the client's figure and temperament, she definitely couldn't walk the sexy, charming, or cute style of other girls. Wearing cute clothes was simply out of place, so she had to wear simple and elegant clothes. You can't wear those shiny clothes with beads and lace. Thinking about how strange and out of place it would be for a tall and strong girl to wear such clothes. She had to wear clothes that suited her style, but it wasn't easy to find something that suited her. Temperament was the key. It would be good if he could cultivate a unique temperament. Ning Shu pinched the flesh on his thighs and arms. Was he going to start losing weight again? Losing weight was really painful. Ning Shu applied sunscreen on his face. Sunscreen was a must-have all year round. Anti-aging started with sunscreen and anti-sugar. If one ate too much sugar, it was easy to oxidize sugar in age. Eat less sweets, desserts, and cold drinks. Did that mean that he was starting to live a life of retirement? Damn. Well, beauty wasn't achieved in a day. Ning Shu changed his clothes and put 2 sanitary pads in his pocket. Before going to class, he even patted one so that it wouldn't leak on his pants. Dan Qing, this is how the client met Hu Mingxiu. Don't you want to get to know Hu Mingxiu? Ning Shu rolled his eyes. Is it a glorious thing to have your period stuck on your pants? Isn't it embarrassing? Anyway, she was quite embarrassed. Dan Qing, you're slacking off. Although this method is embarrassing, you'll get to know each other because of this. You can also return the clothes. Ning Shu scoffed. It was Rong Jingbai who got to know Hu Mingxiu because of this. Hu Mingxiu doesn't even know her. He doesn't even remember. Besides, her current image wasn't suitable to get to know Hu Mingxiu at all. She'd better wait until she was better. Also, Ning Shu was really slacking off. He really didn't know where to start with this task. The root of the problem was that Rong Jingbai wasn't beautiful enough and wasn't confident enough. That was why she offered her soul power in order to be with Hu Mingxiu. In the client's heart, Hu Mingxiu would probably only like beautiful women because all his girlfriends were beautiful women. The client liked Hu Mingxiu because Hu Mingxiu was good at everything. He was good-looking, and his family background added a layer of charm to him. A white face covers 3 ugly faces, a tall face covers 5 ugly faces, and a rich face covers 100 ugly faces. Moreover, Hu Mingxiu was still fine with it. Although this matter was just a matter of convenience for him, for the person who had entrusted him with it, it saved them from embarrassment. When Ning Shu arrived at the classroom, she casually found a seat and sat down. This was a general knowledge class. When the class ended, the client would walk around with his dirty pants and meet Hu Mingxiu in the corridor. Hu Mingxiu gave the clothes to Rong Jingbai. Rong Jingbai started to understand Hu Mingxiu. She went to the school forum and learned about Hu Mingxiu. The more she learned about him, the more she liked him. The more she liked him, the more she couldn't help herself. The more she couldn't help herself, the more she loved him. Cycle after cycle. After the general lesson, Ning Shu felt a warm current flowing through his lower body. He was secretly glad that he had cushioned his pants before. Otherwise, his pants would have been dirty. Since the plot was like this, Ning Shu saw a tall, thin, handsome, and sunny boy pass by him. That boy turned back to look at Ning Shu. His expression was a little strange. He probably didn't know why he turned back to look. Ning Shu knew what he was looking at. He just glanced and saw that the client's pants were dirty. However, Ning Shu had cushioned them, so naturally, they couldn't be dirty. Then, Hu Mingxiu walked quickly and disappeared around the corner. Dan Qing's figure appeared in Ning Shu's mind. Take care of him. The sooner you finish the task, the sooner you can leave. If you had told me in advance, I wouldn't have given you such a task. Actually, this kind of task is relatively simple. Moreover, things like relationships come and go quickly. Even if the two of you break up in the future, your task will be completed. As for what will happen in the future, who knows? It's human nature to like the new and hate the old. Ning Shu clicked his tongue. Isn't this lying? Dan Qing's voice disagreed. No, I'm afraid that even the client can't guarantee that he will only love Hu Mingxiu in this lifetime. Ning Shu shrugged her shoulders. She was too unsure. The client was really too infatuated with Hu Mingxiu. To view the new chapter of Zoe, please go to mobile address. Chapter 3788. When he saw Hu Mingxiu, his body stiffened and he couldn't move at all. His heart felt like it was about to explode. It was too scary. This was too damaging to his body. The moment Hu Mingxiu left his sight, Ning Shu felt like he was about to collapse. His heart was as calm as water, but his body was very honest. To be honest, this was the first time Ning Shu had seen someone like someone so much. If they really got together, wouldn't his blood vessels burst? Putting in so much effort to like someone, wouldn't his life be short? When he passed by the basketball court, he heard the hubbub of voices inside. Ning Shu walked in and saw that there were people playing basketball. The seats were filled with people, and there were more girls. They were all cheering for one person, shouting, "Go Hu Mingxiu, go Hu Mingxiu, go Hu Mingxiu." Ning Shu looked at Hu Mingxiu, who was running and passing the ball on the court. He was wearing a loose jersey, revealing his calves. He was well-proportioned and slender, and his skin was fair. His fingers were long and slender, and the sweat on his forehead had soaked his hair. As he ran, beads of sweat fell down. He really had a handsome and moving appearance. Especially with this face, one could understand the motivation of these girls shouting themselves hoarse to crazily cheer for Hu Mingxiu. He didn't know if it was because of the client, but his heart started to beat wildly. He kept thinking, this person is really handsome, really handsome. I'm willing to die in his arms. He was really a young hunk who made people feel relaxed and happy. He was handsome and full of vitality. Ning Shu's face was expressionless as she clutched her beating heart. He didn't want to die young. It was better to beat normally. It was so bad for his body. Dan Qing, get him, get him, get him. Ning Shu held his beating heart and walked out of the basketball court. Get him? He didn't believe this old man. Ning Shu felt that he was probably worse than the client. After all, the client had already interacted with Hu Mingxiu, although it was just a one-sided concern. Ning Shu touched his big face. He felt that the most important thing now was to make himself look better. It was really hard for people to take her seriously with her current appearance. Even the client liked the good-looking Hu Mingxiu, so why couldn't Hu Mingxiu like good-looking girls? Ning Shu felt that he should change himself first. If he couldn't change Hu Mingxiu, then he would make himself better. The main reason was that Ning Shu didn't want to have an awkward conversation with Hu Mingxiu. Let's lose weight and do some skin care. As for Hu Mingxiu, as long as he was still studying in this school, he would have a chance. He could apply to join the student union and fill out the application form. It didn't mean that people would accept you just because you had genuine feelings for them. This kind of thing required both skill and emotion. Without emotion, it would be pure flirting. But it really depended on his looks. Look at his face, look at his face, look at his face. Ning Shu looked at this body and really did not know where to start. The most direct and fastest way was probably to change the style of clothing. Ning Shu called the Empress Dowager at home and said that he was out of money. He wanted to buy some clothes and asked for some ammunition and resources. After arguing for a long time, the client's mother finally sent some money over. But it was just an advance payment for next month's living expenses. His roommate saw that Ning Shu was about to go out and asked Ning Shu where he was going. Ning Shu only said that he was going out for a walk and didn't plan to buy clothes with his roommate. Everyone's aesthetic was different and had different preferences. If they went shopping together, they would definitely be influenced. So, he was determined to choose the clothes he wanted. Ning Shu went to the shopping mall alone and chose some more expensive clothes. He bought 2 sets of clothes and shoes and was prepared to wear them alternately. Or, he could also match a few sets of clothes by matching them. He had no choice. He was embarrassingly short of money. He also bought a set of basic skincare products, such as water and essences. Then, he would start to avoid food. He couldn't eat anything too strong and couldn't eat too much. He had to maintain his health. Anyway, after all this, Ning Shu basically didn't have any money left. Only half of the month had passed and he had to pay for next month's living expenses in advance. How was he going to survive like this? Did he have to do some part-time jobs? Fuck, how was he going to flirt with men without money? Sigh, money. To be honest, Ning Shu was actually slacking off. Perhaps the client couldn't stand it anymore and directly judged that Ning Shu had failed. Ning Shu would be able to leave this world. It was impossible to erase him. He might just have to waste a spot to avoid erasure. Without Ning Shu, there were other mission enforcers who would come to fulfill her wish. However, even if Ning Shu didn't develop an attack on Hu Mingxiu, he wasn't slacking off. Instead, he was actively transforming himself. If he appeared in front of Hu Mingxiu in a dirty state, that would be the worst situation. This mission was really unbearable. The client wasn't a beautiful girl. He was stuck at this step and couldn't even break through the threshold. Just like how the company chose people, Hu Mingxiu also had a standard for choosing a girlfriend. Looking at his previous girlfriends, they were all cute and beautiful girls. So, he had to work hard to make himself meet the standard. Speaking of liking, Hu Mingxiu didn't lack girls liking him. What could be special about the client? Special liking? Bone-deep love? To be honest, these things were very vague. He had to build on the basis that he liked her. Then, he would talk about other things. Ning Shu carried bags of things into the dormitory. His roommates all came over and looked through Ning Shu's things. A roommate who knew the goods exclaimed, "Wow, you're actually willing to buy this kind of clothes. It's so expensive." Ning Shu said, "I just bought it. It's an advance for next month's living expenses." The roommate held the clothes in his hands and compared them to his body. He couldn't bear to put them down and asked, "Are you in a relationship recently? You're so willing to dress yourself up." Ning Shu took out some of the colorful and fashionable things in the cupboard, but they were also wrinkled and threw them away. This kind of clothes couldn't be worn more than a few times. With a few holes in his jeans, it really didn't look good at all. Ning Shu's taste was probably the old-fashioned taste and aesthetics of an old man. Simple and elegant clothes were the most classy. Wearing neat and tidy clothes didn't give off an otherworldly aura, but it could give off the feeling of a rich woman. The aura of a nouveau riche was also a type of aura. "Hee, you don't want these clothes." The roommate saw that Ning Shu had emptied the cupboard and was rummaging through the clothes on the floor. "You don't want all of them?" Ning Shu kept some underwear and some clothes that he felt he could still wear. As for the other clothes that he couldn't match, he just threw them away. "I don't want them. It's a waste of space to leave them here." There was a huge lump stuffed in the cupboard. Just looking at it made one's heart feel stifled and flustered. To view the new chapter of ZUI, please go to mobile address. Chapter 3789. These clothes were fine, but they didn't look good in them. Some of them weren't even worn. Every time it was time to wear clothes, he felt that there were no clothes to wear. They were piled up and took up space. But it was heartbreaking to throw them away. His roommate flipped through the old clothes and said, "If you don't want to wear them, give this to me. Ning Shu, take a look. Take whatever you like. I'll throw away the rest." The three roommates came over to flip through the clothes to find clothes they liked. Each roommate took at least one sword. It was clear how messy the clothing style of the client was. Moreover, many of the clothes didn't suit him, so there was no point in keeping them. However, the client spent a lot of money to buy these clothes. In the end, these clothes looked good, but when he wore them, they didn't look good at all. He refused to admit that he didn't look good enough. He could only say that the clothes didn't suit him. Ning Shu carried the rest of the clothes that no one wanted downstairs and threw them into the trash can. Ning Shu started to abstain from food. He drank less drinks and ate less meat. He ate more vegetables to ensure his safety. Actually, he wouldn't get acne from eating spicy food. He would only get acne from eating sweet food. He definitely couldn't eat desserts, ice cream, and the like anymore. Such a life definitely wouldn't have any effect for a day or two. However, the most obvious feeling was that his mouth was bland. He always wanted to eat something hot, spicy, and fragrant. However, Ning Shu endured it. When he was hungry, he drank water or ate some fruits. Anyway, drinking more water was always right. Ning Shu comfortably held a bottle of water and took a sip whenever he had nothing to do. Anyway, drinking more hot water was the right thing to do. Whether he was sick or not, he drank more hot water. As for other things, it was up to fate. All the girls in school knew that Hu Mingxiu liked to play basketball. As long as Hu Mingxiu was around, the girls' enthusiasm could overturn the roof. As long as the girls ran to the basketball court, they knew that Hu Mingxiu was there. His body drove Ning Shu to the basketball court. His body seemed to have a craving for touch. However, Ning Shu refused in his heart. Even if he accidentally walked outside the basketball court, he wouldn't go in. His heart pounded as if he had a heart attack. If he went in and saw Hu Mingxiu again, his heart would probably stop beating. Therefore, he would avoid seeing Hu Mingxiu if he could, but his body and heart were constantly reminding Ning Shu. "I have a crush on someone. His name is Hu Mingxiu. He is too nice. I like him too much. I want to see him, just one look." Ning Shu, no, what are you looking at? On the other hand, Ning Shu's application was approved. It was probably because of the school's anniversary celebration that the student council needed more manpower. That was why Ning Shu was able to get in so easily. Ning Shu looked at the department he was in. As expected, it was the arts department. The arts department had many things to worry about, from the big stage layout to the small details of each program. Ning Shu came in as a helper, doing some odd jobs. After all, he was just a small fry who had just entered the student union. The head of the arts department was Wen Mengyao. She was very beautiful and elegant. She was now Hu Mingshu's girlfriend. Ning Shu was speechless. He had a girlfriend. What was there to see? However, Hu Mingshu dated for a short period of time. It could be as long as half a year or as short as a month. Hu Mingshu had quite a lot of exes. He had a rich history of relationships. It could be said that the client had witnessed Hu Mingshu's relationships, the breakup and reunions, and the breakup and breakup. However, the client was not part of it. Hiding in the dark, the client gritted her teeth. She was pitiful and infuriating at the same time. She could either go or give up. What was the point of having such a crush? She had such a crush, but she was not perverted. She had a good mentality too. She just looked at Hu Mingshu and his girlfriend silently. Ning Shu felt that if Hu Mingshu knew, he would definitely feel a chill down his spine. In the dark, a pair of green eyes looked at him faintly. It was creepy no matter how he thought about it. When Mengyao said, according to the usual practice, there must be someone in the arts department who wants to be the host. Anyone who wants to be the host can raise your hand and choose the best one to be the host. It was a host. He could fight for it. Although he was just a newcomer in the arts department, it did not matter even if he did not get chosen. Ning Shu was just about to raise his hand when someone smiled and said to Wen Mengyao, "Of course it's you. When the time comes, you and Hu Mingshu will be the host on the same stage. It's a golden couple. What a good thing." Ning Shu was about to raise his hand and put it down. Forget it. He would just sit in the junk room. Wen Mengyao shook her head. You can't say that. Those who want to be the host can recommend themselves. Ning Shu's hand that he had just put down started to move again. His body was very honest. It was faster than his brain. He directly raised his hand. Everyone looked at Ning Shu. There was a message in their eyes. There is actually such an insensible person in this world. Ning Shu used his other hand to raise the hand that was raised up high. When Mengyao asked, "Do you have any experience as a host?" Ning Shu shook his head. No. Someone frowned and said to Ning Shu, "If you don't have any experience, what talent do you have? Can you dance or play the piano? Can you learn how to broadcast? You can't be a host if you can't speak clearly. Also, you have to have a good image." Playing the piano, dancing, and broadcasting were not important. What was important was having a good image at the end. Compared to Wen Mengyao's appearance and temperament, there was a gap between her qualifications. Someone added, "The department head and Hu Mingshu are boyfriend and girlfriend." It's a blessing. Ning Shu nodded. I was wrong. Even if there was no gap, she was just a newcomer in the arts department. She did not have the qualifications to take on such a heavy responsibility. To appear in front of the whole school, she had to be a girl. She represented the school's image. When the time came, there might even be people from other schools. Ning Shu said that he did not expect to be a host. Wen Mengyao said that just to go through the motions. Even if Wen Mengyao became the host in the end, she still had to go through the motions. It was different from being directly appointed as the host. In the end, Wen Mengyao became the host. In the middle of the meeting, Hu Mingshu came. He pushed open the door and a handsome face appeared in front of everyone. Hu Mingxiu's body was a little thin. His face was thin but his skin was tight. His nose was very narrow, giving people the impression that his nose was straight and exquisite. Usually, a big nose would not look exquisite. Hu Mingxiu's skin was fair. With his looks, he could definitely debut as the center. There were a lot of licking dogs. When he appeared, the eyes of the girls in the arts department turned green. They stared at him. Even if they liked him or hated him, his face was really good looking. Hu Mingxiu looked at Wen Mengyao and asked, "Who will be the host?" He looked at Wen Mengyao with a smile. Wen Mengyao said, "With the recommendation of the arts department, I will be the host." Chapter 3790. Hu Mingxiu had a slight smile on his lips. When he looked at someone like this, it made them feel suffocated. Wen Mengyao couldn't help but put her hand on her chest. She probably couldn't stand Hu Mingxiu's gaze. Hu Mingxiu said, "That's good. It's more comfortable to work with you. If it were someone else, they would definitely not be used to it." The people around were surprised. This was completely showing off their affection in public. It was too inhumane. Wen Mengyao's cheeks were red. To be honest, having a boyfriend like Hu Mingxiu completely satisfied the vanity in a girl's heart. He was handsome, had gold, and was considerate. Hu Mingxiu didn't have to come over for such a small matter. In fact, he was here to support her. Logically speaking, as the head of the arts department, she should be the host on stage. But who knew if there would be an accident? He was just here to support them. Ning Shu's heart started to beat wildly again. She felt as if she was floating in the air. If he told Rong Jingbai, Hu Mingxiu would do whatever he wanted. But Rong Jingbai would definitely not listen. "I just like him." If you can control your heart when you like someone, then it's not love anymore. Ning Shu felt that this body was even more excited than the real girlfriend. He was in a bad mood. Sooner or later, her heart would become perverted. After holding it in for so long, Rong Jingbai wanted to give up 90% of her soul power just to be with Hu Mingxiu. And even if they wanted to be together, they might break up. She was risking everything to pursue that moment. He didn't know how to get rid of this passionate and paranoid feeling. Probably as time passed, it would become deeper. The more he couldn't get it, the more he would think about it. It was like a demon's obsession. Ning Shu looked at Hu Mingxiu. "Hurry up and get lost. Otherwise, his heart will be ruined. Dan Qing, get him, her, them. This is showing off your affection." Ning Shu. "No, they're a couple. It's normal to show off their affection and show off their affection." It was especially hurtful. Especially for someone like her who had ulterior motives. Heaven and earth were heartless. For all living things, for single people. Dan Qing, you are just being passive and slacking off. Ning Shu, I already said that they were boyfriend and girlfriend. What am I supposed to do? Am I supposed to break them up and be a mistress? Unrequited love was a personal matter. It had nothing to do with others, and it didn't hinder Hu Mingxiu and Wen Mengyao. Neither of them knew that Rong Jingbai had such thoughts. Rong Jingbai looked at Hu Mingxiu's girlfriends one after another, but none of them had anything to do with Rong Jingbai. Thinking about it, it was quite torturous. Besides, even if Rong Jingbai went up to cause trouble, she would be seen as an evil, ugly, and mischievous female supporting character. Rong Jingbai was probably self-aware. She didn't say anything and just watched silently. Doing so was the right thing to do. Announcing his thoughts to the world would definitely invite endless mockery. Rong Jingbai hid her feelings in the bottom of her heart. This was the only thing she could do calmly in her crazy crush. Usually, when Rong Jingbai had nothing to do, she would take Hu Mingxiu's photos from the school forum and secretly hide them. When she was free, she would secretly look at them and touch them. She really looked like a living pervert. However, her behavior didn't have any negative effects on others. She hid the things well. Other girls could say that they liked him loudly, but Rong Jingbai didn't dare. Others might say it as a joke, but she couldn't even take a joke. She would panic and let others notice. The host had confirmed it. Then, the next step was to assign various tasks. As a rookie who had just entered the student union, he couldn't do more high-end work. He was assigned odd jobs, such as carrying things, pasting things, buying things, and decorating the hall. Anyway, it was just some errands. Ning Shu completed these tasks seriously. Since he was already in, he didn't want to be kicked out. It would be embarrassing. When the literature and art department was busy, Hu Mingxiu would often come to check on the progress and visit his girlfriend. Every time he came, he would bring some things over, or some desserts. Or some cold drinks, purified water, or even candies. Although it wasn't expensive, there were many people in the literature and art department. The higher-ups and the small fry like Ning Shu had to get something for everyone. It still required a lot of things. Sometimes, the drinks and desserts would be brought over in boxes. It was purely because of Wen Meng Yao's fame that the entire literature and art department ate happily. Hu Mingxiu really knew how to conduct himself. Plus, he wasn't the kind of person who was tight on money. Hu Mingxiu had many girlfriends, but none of them jumped out to say that Hu Mingxiu was a jerk or how bad Hu Mingxiu was. Many of them wanted to get back together. But Hu Mingxiu discriminated against those who went back to his old grass. Ning Shu felt that the person who asked him to do it would definitely not be able to control someone like Hu Mingxiu. Hu Mingxiu was confident, but Rong Jingbai was a little inferior. She was even a little autistic in front of Hu Mingxiu. From Ning Shu's point of view, this matter was inappropriate no matter how she looked at it. Ning Shu got a bottle of drink. He looked at the energy and sugar on the ingredients list and put it aside. He didn't plan to drink it. If he drank it, he would have pimples again. His skin was already sensitive. Ning Shu put the drink aside. When he came back after he was done, the drink was gone. It was probably taken away by someone. Ning Shu didn't feel bad. After all, it wasn't his. He looked at Hu Mingxiu and Wen Mengyao, who were whispering to each other intimately. It was full of the sour smell of love. Well, it was quite heart-wrenching. Ning Shu felt as if needles were poking into his lungs. It was very uncomfortable. His stomach was churning, and it even went into his stomach. It was as if he had drunk vinegar. It was so sour that his teeth fell out. The moment he saw Hu Mingxiu, Ning Shu felt that this body had all kinds of problems. It was time to go to class. Ning Shu patted the dust off his body and left with his things. When he walked to the door, he heard Hu Mingxiu's voice. Wait a minute. Ning Shu wasn't sure if he was calling him, but at that moment, his heart felt as if it had been hammered by a huge hammer. He was in a daze for a moment. Then, his heart started to beat violently like a spring that had been squeezed to the extreme. Ning Shu's face changed. His lips were a little purple. Then, he tried his best to pinch his thumb. Damn, I'm really going to die young. They weren't even together yet. The one at the door, wait a minute. Hu Mingxiu's clear voice sounded again. Ning Shu turned his head stiffly and saw Hu Mingxiu walking over with a bottle of drink from the beverage box. To watch the new chapter of Zoe, please go to mobile address. Chapter 3791. Hu Mingxiuan walked over step by step. It was as if he was stepping on Ning Shu's heart. Step by step, even breathing became difficult. Blood rushed to his face. Ning Shu suspected that he would have a nosebleed in the next second. Damn, don't come over. I feel like I'm going to collapse. Crush is so harmful. He passed it to Ning Shu. I see that you haven't drunk it. Take it and drink it. Hu Mingxiu casually passed the drink in his hand to Ning Shu. Take the school anniversary to heart. Ning Shu took the drink with difficulty. The expression on his face was very hard. His muscles were twitching and his face was trembling. Ning Shu felt that Hu Mingxiu was showing off his love with Wen Mengyao. At the same time, he was also observant and noticed that an insignificant person like her didn't drink the drink. He was quite considerate and knew how to conduct himself. He was probably worried that she wouldn't get anything and would slack off on her work. After all, the school anniversary was just around the corner. The work of the student union was actually free. There was no salary. Whether one worked or not really depended on one's integrity and character. Some people really couldn't be helped if they slacked off. Ning Shu felt that she should go back and worship this bottle of drink. This was the drink that Hu Mingxiu gave her. It would be a waste to drink it. It would be gone after a puddle of urine. This was personally given to her by Hu Mingxiu. If she took a sip every day, she would probably be able to drink it for 10 days to half a month. It had a shelf life of 1 year. But after opening the lid, it wouldn't work anymore. Ning Shu's mind was full of all kinds of evil thoughts. Hu Mingxiu looked at Ning Shu's stunned expression and said, "I still need to rely on you guys for some miscellaneous work." Ning Shu came back to her senses. She wanted to speak, but her throat was dry and tight. The words that came out were all stuttering. Okay. Ning Shu, I have a disease called stuttering. Hu Mingxiu saw that Ning Shu's expression wasn't good and comforted him. "I'm not blaming you. Don't be nervous. It's just that the school's anniversary celebration is coming soon. You guys should be more careful." Ning Shu helplessly replied with an "oh." He had heard of a saying before, that a person would be particularly clumsy in front of the person they liked, and might even fall flat on the ground. He had always thought that it was fake, but only now did he realize that his mind was one thing, but whether his body was obedient or not was another. In this situation, the body didn't listen to the brain. Hu Mingxiu's expression was a little puzzled. Obviously, he didn't quite understand why Ning Shu was in a bad mood. He felt that it might be because of his words. She couldn't help but say, "I didn't mean to blame you." Ning Shu said, "I know, and I'm not slacking off, so I don't think you're talking about me." What Ning Shu didn't like was this body's huge reaction to Hu Mingxiu. What a sin! What a sin! Hu Mingxiu was speechless. He didn't know how to continue the conversation. When Mengyao walked over and held Hu Mingxiu's arm, it looked like she was declaring her sovereignty. She asked, "What are you talking about?" Hu Mingxiu didn't care and said, "Nothing." When Mengyao looked at Ning Shu, she probably felt that Ning Shu wasn't much of a threat to her, so she was more tolerant of Ning Shu. She said, "Go to class when you're done with your work." Ning Shu agreed and then passed the drink to Wen Mengyao. He said, "I don't eat sweets or drink drinks, thank you." Hu Mingxiu loved to bring food when he came to the literature and art department, but it was all high-calorie food. He didn't want it once or twice, so he might as well make it clear. When Mengyao didn't take it, she said, "It's just a bottle of drink. Since it's given to you, you should keep it. Consider it a benefit. Other departments don't have such benefits. If you don't want to eat it, you can give it to someone else. Anyway, you deserve it." Looking at Wen Mengyao's proud look, it was quite cute. It was probably because she had a boyfriend like Hu Mingxiu that the entire literature and art department was basking in his glory. Hu Mingxiu knew how to give face to others. He would rather bring food for everyone than bring food for Wen Mengyao alone. When others took the food, they owed Wen Mengyao a favor. It also gave Wen Mengyao face. Hu Mingxiu's EQ was good. Of course, with money in his hands, he was more considerate. But if he didn't have enough money, he naturally couldn't be so generous to give face to Wen Mengyao. Ning Shu said, "Thank you, Minister." Also, "Thank you, Minister's boyfriend." Ning Shu didn't call Hu Mingxiu's name directly. Instead, he said the minister's boyfriend. This title made Wen Mingyao's smile widen. She waved her hand to let Ning Shu go. Ning Shu sighed. They were in a relationship, but she, the crazy crush, was watching from the side. It was heartbreaking. Ning Shu gave the drink to his roommates. Anyway, he didn't eat it. There was no use in keeping it. It would also affect his body. Maybe he would be hugging a bottle of drink every day, eating, and sleeping like a crazy person. Ning Shu felt that this kind of thing would happen. After that, Ning Shu got a lot of snacks from the literature and art department. He brought them back for his roommates to eat. This made Ning Shu's relationship with the other 3 girls better. Sometimes, when Ning Shu asked for help, they would agree very quickly. After all, they had a soft mouth. Dan Qing said, "There's still no progress. Hu Mingxiu doesn't even know your name now. He also didn't get your contact information. You are slacking. How long are you going to stay in this world?" He stayed until the client couldn't look at him anymore. Ning Shu said, "Why is there no progress? Didn't you give me a bottle of water?" Hu Mingxiu gave me a bottle of water. Dan Qing rarely spoke when Ning Shu was doing missions. She probably couldn't stand it anymore and spoke. "And he has a girlfriend now. Don't talk. Wait until I become beautiful. Hide and enrich yourself." Also, he was in a relationship. By the time he became beautiful and different, they might have already broken up. So, there was no need to rush things that could be solved with time. Moreover, it was useless. Getting close to him would be annoying. By then, it would be ugly people making more trouble. Being a mistress. Were these words nice? There were things to do and things not to do. The most important thing was that there was no chance. Ning Shu didn't have much hope for this mission. So, he tried his best to complete it. Solve the problem from the root. Even if he really got Hu Mingxiu for Rong Jingbai would still be the same. What was the difference? She should feel inferior. In short, this was a very unreliable thing. Ning Shu looked at the mirror and carefully observed his face and teeth. If he wanted someone to brush his teeth seriously, he had to brush his teeth until they were white. He had to brush for at least 3 minutes. He had to buy an electric toothbrush. He couldn't control the strength of a normal toothbrush and his gums would always bleed. Instead of having a crazy crush, he might as well change himself from the small details. When the time was right, he would find that he was compatible with her. To view the new chapter of Zoe, please go to mobile address. Chapter 3792. Buying good things cost money. Ning Shu squeezed his wallet. Did he have to ask the Empress Dowager for next month's living expenses in advance again? He couldn't live anymore. Beauties were all nurtured by money. His whole body reeked of money. Even so, Ning Shu still steeled his heart and bought expensive things. However, the comfortable feeling that followed made it worth the money. Buying 10 normal toothbrushes was better than buying an electric toothbrush. Every day, Ning Shu followed a strict skincare routine. However, the client's skin was a little allergic. Her cuticle was thin, so he had to buy skincare products that were less irritating to the skin. Although he tried his best to choose things that were less irritating, when he touched it, he still felt a little prickly. It was really ruined by those little secret recipes. There were also some red streaks. If the wind blew, it would be a plateau red. His heart was very stuffed. When Ning Shu went out, he wore a hat and a sunscreen. He also wore a thick mask. The thin ones were not enough. He couldn't let any skin leak. He hoped that this would be able to cover his skin. However, Ning Shu looked at the skin on the inner side of the arm. It wasn't very white. This meant that the client's skin was as white as the inner side of the arm. It was a little whiter than wheat, but it definitely wasn't white. If it really didn't work, she would go the route of a cool girl. She would go the route of being sunny and healthy. Wheat skin could also be very sexy. However, the client's skin wasn't wheat, but black. The limit was just a little whiter than wheat. Since she wanted to go the route of being healthy and energetic, she definitely couldn't be fat. If she was thin and healthy, with a wheat skin tone, she would definitely look good. However, if she was tall and strong, and was very fat, with a body full of fat and dark skin tone, it wouldn't be sexy and energetic. It would be fat and round. One was heaven and one was earth. In short, being thin was the natural order of things. Ning Shu touched the client's flesh. It was very firm. This meant that it was solid meat and not soft meat. However, this kind of meat was not easy to lose. It was muscular. However, the problem was that these muscles weren't beautiful at all. The parts that should be bulging weren't bulging. However, the parts that didn't look good were still there. For example, his huge calves were really depressing. They would tremble even when he was running. God knows how much energy they contained. Ning Shu had to ensure that his walking posture was correct. He had to minimize the use of his calves and stomachs. When he walked, he could not use his calves to exert force. Otherwise, the muscles in his legs and stomach would become stronger and stronger. Since he wanted to lose weight, it was useless to eat less. He had to move his legs. Therefore, every morning when he woke up, Ning Shu would run around the school. When he first started running, he walked slowly. Even walking one round around the school was very tiring. The school was so big. In the university town. Although the client was tall and strong, his body was not in good condition. After walking for so long, he felt very tired. The next day, he didn't want to get up at all. It was difficult for him to persevere. At the end of the day, it was a matter of persistence. Moreover, it wasn't just about running around the school. Even if he couldn't run away, he still had a lot of work to do. For example, if you were to apply sunscreen, you would have to apply a layer of isolation cream before applying sunscreen. If you didn't apply sunscreen, the sun's ultraviolet rays would age you. Sunscreen was more useful than applying expensive skincare products and eating nourishing tonics. The cost was the least. It was just that it was cumbersome. Every morning, he had to wake up early and apply a thick layer of sunscreen on his face. He also had to wear a long shirt and long sleeves. After running one round, he was so tired that he could die. After sweating all over, he had to take a shower and wash his hair. It was so troublesome. If there were classes, he had to rush to class. Running was nothing. The troublesome thing was these trivial things. It was really not easy to persevere. What defeated people was not the big goal, but the small details. Ning Shu also felt that it was cumbersome. However, Danqing always said that he was slacking off. In order to prove that he was not slacking off, Ning Shu said that he had to lose this fat no matter what. This should not be called losing weight, but plasticity. He wanted to make the lines of his body look better. Such a big lump of muscles definitely could not be lost, but it could make the lines look better. It would not look too bloated and ugly. Which was more difficult, flirting with men or losing weight? It was obviously more difficult to lose weight. How incredible was it to lose all the fat on his body? Don't say that he was slacking off. Every morning, Ning Shu had to wake up early. The other roommates were still sleeping. Ning Shu got out of bed gently. There were still light sleepers. Ning Shu opened his eyes and asked, "Are you going for a run? Help me bring some breakfast when you come back." Ning Shu nodded. He washed his face and applied a thick layer of sunscreen on his face and neck. He put on a thick layer of sunscreen on the bed and went out for a run. The university dormitory was a place where people could rot. Usually, if there was nothing to do, they would stay in the dormitory. Ning Shu walked on the school road. There were not many students. Instead, there were some teachers or some older people who had woken up early to exercise. Ning Shu did some warm-up exercises and started jogging. After a while, he was covered in sweat. When he continued running, he was already sweating. However, even if he was sweating, he had to complete today's running task. He could only grit his teeth and persevere. It was really tiring. After running, he had to go to the cafeteria to bring breakfast for his roommates. He also had to walk slowly. Otherwise, if he suddenly stopped, his body would not be able to take it. After persevering for more than a week, Ning Shu felt that his mental state had improved. It was all self-discipline. Sometimes, when he wanted to slack off, he still had to run. It had to be a habit. His daily work schedule was quite tight. If he was not in class, he would go to the literature department to help set up the school anniversary. Other than studying, he also had to do some yoga to help relax his muscles. It was to prevent him from getting stronger. There was also a pleasant surprise when he ran. One time, he actually met Hu Mingxiu, who was also running. Hu Mingxiu was wearing casual shorts. He looked very handsome running under the sun. Ning Shu felt uncomfortable when he saw Hu Mingxiu. His body did not listen to his brain. It was completely dominated by hormones. Love was a kind of chemical hormone. The brain did not exist at all. When he saw Hu Mingxiu, Ning Shu planned to avoid him. He did not want to talk to him. When he spoke, Ning Shu felt that his body was no longer his. His body wanted to see Hu Mingxiu, but his heart did not want to see him at all. Moreover, Ning Shu did not plan to ask for his contact information. The client might as well have asked for Hu Mingxiu's contact information from others. Hu Mingxiu rejected several requests to add him as a friend. However, she worked tirelessly to add him as a friend. Hu Mingxiu did not know if he clicked on the wrong button, but his hand slipped and accepted Rong Jingbai as Hu Mingxiu's friend. To view the new chapter of Zui, please go to mobile address. Chapter 3793. There was a reason why Rong Jingbai kept adding Hu Mingxiu. She wanted to know about Hu Mingxiu's life and mood. When Hu Mingxiu posted a message on his WeChat Moments, Rong Jingbai would immediately like it. If Hu Mingxiu said something ambiguous, Rong Jingbai would ponder for a long time, trying to figure out what Hu Mingxiu's mood was. What did he want to say? If he was showing off his girlfriend, Rong Jingbai would also like it. However, she would feel jealous, but she didn't dare to say anything overboard. Instead, she would spread rumors that Hu Mingxiu's girlfriend was beautiful. Anyway, it was quite bitter. She had set Hu Mingxiu's messages as special attention, but Hu Mingxiu had never sent her a message. In his contacts, Rong Jingbai was someone who had been forgotten in a corner. Fortunately, Hu Mingxiu didn't delete her directly. Hu Mingxiu was a thoughtful person. Even if he didn't contact her, he wouldn't delete her hastily. Therefore, Ning Shu didn't want Hu Mingxiu's contact information. Otherwise, he would have to hold on to his phone all the time and pay special attention to Hu Mingxiu's news. Sometimes, when people touched their phones, it was completely a habit of the body. What did it have to do with the brain? It had nothing to do with it. Perhaps when the phone rang, the body would take out the phone before the brain could react. Ning Shu didn't want his life to be filled with Hu Mingxiu's name. Looking at Hu Mingxiu's life, he didn't want to know about Hu Mingxiu's emotions at all. Ning Shu avoided Hu Mingxiu, but Hu Mingxiu saw Ning Shu and even greeted Ning Shu. "You're jogging too." Ning Shu felt helpless and stopped in his tracks. "Yeah, I'm jogging." It was so awkward. So it was awkward and awkward. The main reason was that Hu Mingxiu had a girlfriend and wasn't interested in Rong Jingbai, so no matter what he said, it was awkward. After a few seconds of silence, the atmosphere was quite awkward. However, Was Hu Mingxiu the kind of person to let the atmosphere continue to be awkward? Hu Mingxiu said, "I'm quite surprised to see you. Girls usually don't run much. Losing weight completely depends on diet. Running is quite good." Ning Shu, yes. Hu Mingxiu, emoji. Ning Shu succeeded in making the atmosphere awkward again. Hu Mingxiu said, "Then you keep running." "I'll keep running too." Ning Shu said, "Okay." Then he looked at Hu Mingxiu. "Well, who's going to turn around and run first?" The two of them chuckled awkwardly before they turned around and ran away. When he turned around, Ning Shu caught a glimpse of Hu Mingxiu's vexed expression from the corner of his eye. Ning Shu thought for a moment and knew what he was upset about. It was nothing more than the fact that the two of them were not familiar with each other and had nothing to talk about. Hu Mingxiu just had to call out to her, resulting in such an awkward situation. He probably regretted calling her that. Ning Shu clutched his chest. When he saw Hu Mingxiu, his heart beat even faster than when he was running. He didn't have long to live. The more one didn't want to run into something, the easier it was to run into it. After running, Ning Shu ran into Hu Mingxiu 2 or 3 times a week, except when it was windy or rainy. After that awkward conversation, Ning Shu and Hu Mingxiu both turned their heads to the side when they ran into each other, pretending not to see each other, and then brushed past each other. This was better than having an awkward conversation. Dan Qin couldn't help but say, there can be some development. Why avoid it? If you really don't want to do this mission, it's better to end it early. Ning Shu, important things need to be repeated 3 times. He has a girlfriend, he has a girlfriend, he has a girlfriend. Regardless of how long their relationship would last, it was a legitimate relationship. And no matter what reason she had, now that she had stepped in, she was a mistress. Ning Shu, stop talking nonsense. Wait until I become prettier. Is becoming prettier something that can happen in a day or 2? Missions could take up to 4 or 5 years. How long had it been? Why was Dan Qin so anxious? Dan Qin said, it's probably because you've been swift and decisive in completing missions in the past. You can finish them as fast as you can without any delay. That's why this mission is so slow. I'm really not used to it. That was why she couldn't help but remind him. Ning Shu sighed. This mission can't be fast. I can only take it slow. There was no use in rushing around. Just by being hot-headed and filled with passion, the other party had to accept it. That was too ridiculous. He had to find other things to divert his attention. For example, running every day. Running wasn't just about running. After every run, there were many things to do. For example, if his body was sore, he had to use foam shafts to press on his muscles. After doing so many things, he wouldn't think about so many random things. The school's anniversary was just around the corner. The people from the arts department were working overtime to arrange it. They definitely couldn't be sloppy. The school's anniversary was held by the school's leaders, and the leaders from other schools were also coming. If something were to happen, it would be a very embarrassing thing. Of course, the work couldn't be done by the arts department. The money was also paid by the arts department. There were also activities funds to buy all kinds of materials. As a member of the arts department, helping to arrange the event was a very honorable thing. There would always be a sentence or 2 in the student register. It was also very worth it. Besides attending classes, Ning Shu came to help set up the venue. He also had to print the nameplates and arrange the seats. These were all trivial matters, but they needed to be done carefully. If he wrote the wrong name of any school leader, that would be embarrassing. It wasn't something that would kill him, but it would give people a careless and sloppy impression. Ning Shu still wanted to stay in the student union, so he had to be serious and careful. He had to check with everyone. Hu Mingxiu also came to the arts department often. He needed to practice hosting with Wen Mengyao. He couldn't go on stage without any preparation. He had to write his lines well. If he got stuck in front of the entire school, it would be very embarrassing. Hu Mingxiu valued his reputation and image very much. Moreover, with his popularity, he wouldn't allow himself to make such a mistake. Not only would he not allow himself to make mistakes, but he also wouldn't allow his partner and girlfriend to make mistakes. If there was a problem, he would raise it sternly and ask you to change it. Ning Shu saw Hu Mingxiu being strict with Wen Mengyao more than once. If he wasn't unhappy with Wen Mengyao's expression, then he would make demands of her posture and tone. Ning Shu felt that this wasn't the school's anniversary. It was probably the standard of the Spring Festival Gala. There were a few times when the smile on Wen Mengyao's face froze. Then, the smile slowly disappeared and her face turned red from embarrassment. Obviously, Hu Mingxiu talking about Wen Mengyao's situation in front of so many people made Wen Mengyao very embarrassed. She directly ran out of the hall in a fit of anger. If you think I'm not good, then find another partner. Wen Mengyao's voice was a little loud and attracted a lot of people. To watch the new chapter of Zui, please go to mobile address. Chapter 3794. The two of them were on the stage, and the people below the stage might not be able to hear what they were talking about. But when Wen Mengyao shouted, many people turned their attention to the stage. Wen Mengyao was even more embarrassed. She did not know whether to leave or stay. In the end, she could only run out. Hu Mingxiu sighed. Girls were really too much. If it was a guy, he would have directly made a request. But if the girl did not accept it, she would be sad and make trouble for no reason. He should be preparing now. How would he have the time to coax his girlfriend? Irritated, Ning Shu glanced at the conflict between the two of them and then started to do his work. If they did not date, there would be no problems. Sometimes, after confirming a relationship, it was not a good thing to make it clear. If Hu Mingxiu and Wen Mengyao were still in an ambiguous period and had not made their relationship clear, they would not have confirmed their relationship. If Hu Mingxiu made all kinds of requests, Wen Mengyao would definitely try her best to fulfill them. Even if she could not do it, she would try her best to make Hu Mingxiu think more highly of her. She would try her best to let Hu Mingxiu see her good points. But after confirming a relationship, most girls would have a feeling that their boyfriend should coax them more. Now that Hu Mingxiu made all these requests, Wen Mengyao felt that Hu Mingxiu was looking down on her. She was also embarrassed that Hu Mingxiu was saying all kinds of bad things about her and making her lose face in front of others. A relationship seemed to have reached perfection when a certain relationship was made clear. Actually, this was not the case. After confirming a relationship, it was natural for the other party to do something for her and enjoy the benefits and glory of this relationship. Moreover, Hu Mingxiu had always been giving Wen Mengyao face. Suddenly, Wen Mengyao was not used to this, so her reaction was a little big. After a while, Wen Mengyao would realize that this was work and not a relationship problem. Ning Shu could understand why some companies were against office relationships. It was because these emotions would be brought into work. Then it would become a matter of not distinguishing between work and work. If work was not done well, it would affect the work. Humans were emotional creatures. It was inevitable that they would be affected by some feelings. Of course, Ning Shu would not be so stupid to recommend himself. When he saw Wen Mengyao running away, he ran to say that he would be the host. Not to mention whether Wen Mengyao would agree or not, even Hu Mingxiu would not agree. Therefore, he didn't go looking for trouble. Hu Mingxiu didn't look good. He jumped off the stage and took out a bottle of water from the cardboard box to drink slowly. Seeing that the people around him were staring at him, he said, "Don't worry about me. You do your thing." Someone even joked with Hu Mingxiu, saying, "Hu Mingxiu, your desire to live isn't strong. You actually didn't chase after her." Hu Mingxiu smiled and shook his head. He didn't say that she would be back soon. However, he couldn't say these words out loud. Otherwise, it would be even more awkward when Meng Yao returned. However, Ning Shu felt that Meng Yao was quite embarrassed now. After all, she ran out, but Hu Mingxiu didn't chase after her like in idol dramas. Although there were conflicts, it could still improve their relationship. It was definitely fun for young couples to mess around. In short, Meng Yao was in a dilemma. She could neither go back nor stay. After all, she was the head of the arts department. She was so willful that she had left the rest behind. Moreover, it was almost the school anniversary. The more Meng Yao thought about it, the more she felt that something was wrong. However, she was unwilling to go back. Thinking of Hu Mingxiu's strict and picky attitude towards her, Meng Yao was so angry that she stomped her feet. Someone had to bow down first. However, in the hall, Hu Mingxiu was sitting on the chair drinking water. Outside, Meng Yao was hesitating on the tree-lined path. Anyway, it was a stalemate. Meng Yao waited for Hu Mingxiu to come and find her. However, she didn't see Hu Mingxiu's voice. She was so angry that she stomped her feet and turned to leave. You should find someone else. Really, you don't know how to coax people. Meng Yao went straight back to the dormitory. It was the people from the arts department who saw that Meng Yao hadn't returned. Meng Yao didn't see Hu Mingxiu. She said directly, "My throat isn't feeling well. I can't be the host. You should find someone else." When the others heard this, they naturally tried to persuade her. They said that only she could be the host. Moreover, the school anniversary was almost here. It wasn't appropriate to find someone else. If something went wrong, it would be embarrassing for the arts department. Moreover, would you be okay with your boyfriend partnering with another girl? Meng Yao rolled her eyes. What's there for me to be worried about? I'm not worried at all. Actually, it would be fine as long as Hu Mingxiu lowered his head. Meng Yao just wanted an attitude. When she went back, Meng Yao would definitely practice hard and meet Hu Mingxiu's requirements. However, Hu Mingxiu didn't lower his head at this time. The school anniversary was coming and Hu Mingxiu was the only male host. How ugly would the scene be? Therefore, Meng Yao could accept it. The others were anxious. The key was that the two of them had a conflict. Since they couldn't persuade Meng Yao, they could persuade Hu Mingxiu. Moreover, coaxing his girlfriend wasn't something embarrassing. Hu Mingxiu frowned. Is this a matter between a boyfriend and girlfriend? How could these two things be mixed together? These were two completely different matters. It was clearly a work matter. Now, it had become a conflict between a boyfriend and girlfriend. If it was really a conflict between a boyfriend and girlfriend, he would admit his mistake. It wasn't a big deal and it wouldn't affect anything. However, these were clearly two different matters. Even if Hu Mingxiu knew that this matter would be over if he coaxed Meng Yao. It was a very simple matter and there wasn't any loss. Hu Mingxiu was still unhappy. He felt that Meng Yao was threatening him with his work. Moreover, was this matter his fault? If he had to coax Meng Yao, then did this mean that he was in the wrong? It was like paste and sesame, mixed together. The right and wrong made people feel aggrieved. Ning Shu felt that Hu Mingxiu was a little straight, but he knew how to conduct himself. It was probably because work was work and personal was personal. The two couldn't be mixed together. He was quite upright. At least in some aspects, he wouldn't make things difficult for others because of his personal feelings. A woman who was so suitable for Hu Mingxiu must be a girl who knew how to behave. At least, a girl who could listen to people's words. Ning Shu thought about the client's personality. If she really got together with Hu Mingxiu, she would definitely be sensitive and think too much. Moreover, she loved Hu Mingxiu so much that she couldn't extricate herself. If Hu Mingxiu really suggested that he was good for Rong Jingbai, Rong Jingbai would think that he was disgusted with her. Even someone as outstanding as Wen Mengyao would have a big reaction when she heard Hu Mingxiu's suggestion. Of course, there was another possibility. Rong Jingbai worshipped Hu Mingxiu brainlessly. No matter what Hu Mingxiu said, Rong Jingbai would accept it. To watch the new chapter of Zui, please go to mobile address. Chapter 3795. I can't sleep. My chest is stuffy and my head is a little dizzy. Ning Shu was feeling this way now. Anyway, she didn't think highly of Hu Mingxiu and Rong Jingbai. Let's not talk about whether the two of them could be together or whether there was any hope of them being together. Even if they were together, their personalities didn't match. However, there were all kinds of strange things in this world. They might be suitable. Her analysis was as fierce as a tiger, but the result was the opposite. She couldn't be too absolute. However, when Mengyao and Hu Mingxiu fell into an inexplicable cold war, neither of them was willing to lower their heads. Of course, when Mengyao realized that she was in the wrong, her reaction was too big. However, the problem was that Hu Mingxiu kept talking about her problems, and then she exploded. She exploded. Humans were irrational. If they were irrational, it was easy for them to get dizzy. Realizing her mistake didn't mean that she could wipe her face and apologize. Anyway, an inexplicable reserve supported Wen Mengyao to admit her mistake and not correct it. As the saying goes, being unreasonable. She was his girlfriend. So what if she was unreasonable? Anyway, the two of them fell into an inexplicable cold war. Hu Mingxiu didn't care about Wen Mengyao at all, making Wen Mengyao embarrassed. In this situation, there was no way to apologize and reconcile. The literature and art department was going crazy. What was wrong with the two of them? Previously, they were so lovey-dovey and full of dog food. Now that the school anniversary was approaching, they were still counting on the two of them to be lovey-dovey on the stage. Now, it seemed that the two of them might break up because of this. It didn't matter if they broke up. After a long time, the world would eventually part. The problem was that it shouldn't happen during the school anniversary. Some people went to persuade Wen Mengyao. Wen Mengyao naturally went along with it. She hesitated and wanted to apologize to Hu Mingxiu. However, Hu Mingxiu's next move blinded everyone's eyes. Hu Mingxiu said that Wen Mengyao wasn't suitable to be the host of the school anniversary. And choose another host. Everyone was stunned for a moment. Then, they reacted and persuaded the commentator. The school anniversary was just around the corner. It was too late to change a host. Moreover, in terms of qualifications, not many people could compare to Wen Mengyao. What he meant was that Wen Mengyao had high requirements. It wasn't that Wen Mengyao wasn't good, but that Wen Mengyao had high requirements. Wen Mengyao turned around and left. She was too lazy to say anything. Since you are so dissatisfied, I will not partner with you to be the host this time. Previously, when they were not together, they were also hosts on the same stage. Why didn't he say anything bad about her at that time? Now that they were together, why did he start talking bad about her? I don't want to serve you anymore. You can do whatever you want. He didn't expect Hu Mingxiu to be such a person. He was simply blind. This time, when Mengyao really became a hands-off boss, she didn't do anything. It wasn't that she wasn't going to do anything, but she wasn't going to be a host anymore. She also had to manage the school's anniversary celebration. The two of them didn't speak when they met. Since Wen Mengyao wasn't going to be the host anymore, they had to find a new female host. Of course, the literature and art department would have to choose a host. None of the girls in the literature and art department would take the initiative to be a host. Even though Ning Shu had volunteered before, he was now curled up into a ball, not daring to get close. Now that the two of them were in a conflict, no matter what the reason was, it was only right for her to suffer. On the contrary, it would make others look at her strangely. Those who didn't know would think that she had snatched Wen Menyao's hosting position. After all, according to the usual practice, Wen Mengyao was the host. Moreover, the school and students were already used to Wen Mengyao. If she suddenly changed to another person, they would definitely be picky. Moreover, the two of them were in a conflict now. If they reconciled in the future, she didn't know how they would mock her in their hearts. Ning Shu would never do something so strenuous and unrewarding. She would never do it. No matter who was going to be the host, Ning Shu wouldn't do it anyway. Moreover, the school's anniversary celebration was less than a week away. The other aspects had already been prepared. Even if the two of them were in a conflict, they would still be forcefully pushed onto the stage in the end. Even if they were in a conflict, the host still had to be the host. Once they were off the stage, they could do whatever they wanted. Therefore, when Hu Mingxiu asked if anyone was willing to be the host, or if anyone had experience in hosting, they could give it a try. However, no one answered. Everyone looked at each other, but no one said anything. This made Hu Mingxiu even angrier. Could it be that without Wen Mengyao, there wasn't even a host? Since he couldn't find anyone in the literature department, he would directly go to other departments to find someone. He didn't believe that he wouldn't be able to find someone. Ning Shu didn't care about how the two of them were tormenting each other. He just did what he had to do. He didn't know if it was an illusion, but after persisting in running for half a month and meticulously taking care of his skin, Ning Shu felt that his condition was better. He had slimmed down a little and his skin was a little smoother. His skin color didn't change, but it was quite uniform. It was evenly tanned. As for his hair, it was still so little and didn't grow much. He reckoned that it wouldn't be of much use for a while. It would also take a long time for him to adjust it internally and externally. Ning Shu wanted to cultivate exceptional martial arts. If he had some spiritual energy, he would be able to expel some of the toxins in his body. However, he didn't absorb any spiritual energy at all. He did absorb some fiery sun energy from the sun, but this thing was absorbed into his body. Ning Shu felt that his skin seemed to be darker. It didn't work. The power of the blazing sun could not be absorbed. Moreover, it was harmful to the body as it would burn the internal organs. Generally, when Ning Shu cultivated peerless martial arts, he would absorb spirit qi or the power of the stars. He would rarely absorb other types of energy. It seemed that using exceptional martial arts to become more beautiful wouldn't work. The fiery sun energy would only make his condition worse. He had to lose weight honestly, eat less, eat more bland food, and run more. When he was running in the morning, he would occasionally meet Hu Mingxiu. Once, Hu Mingxiu stopped Ning Shu and asked directly, "Well," Ning Shu said, "My name is Rong Jingbai." Hu Mingxiu said, "Oh, Rong Jingbai, I heard that you want to be a host." Ning Shu was expressionless. "You heard that?" Hu Mingxiu said, "I heard that you recommended yourself before. Do you want to have a try?" Ning Shu, "That I was too young before. Please forgive my ignorance." Ning Shu shook his head and said, "I don't have the foundation and experience of a broadcasting host. I was just playing before. I don't intend to be a host." Ning Shu didn't say anything else, nor did he kindly persuade him to make up with Wen Mengyao. Wen Mengyao was suitable to be a host. The key was to consider the overall situation and not delay the school anniversary activities. She was not familiar with Hu Mingxiu. If she said these words, it would seem that she was meddling in other people's business and would be a waste of her saliva. So Ning Shu simply refused Hu Mingxiu and looked at him without saying a word. To watch the new chapter of Zui, please go to mobile phone address. Chapter 3796. The scene was a little awkward. Hu Mingxiu didn't know why, but seeing this guy and talking to him felt so awkward. If the other party was passionate, he would feel awkward. If he was so cold, it was also quite awkward. The key was that he couldn't say anything. Hu Mingxiu felt that it could still be salvaged and said, "Why don't you give it a try?" Ning Shu shook his head. "I can't. Besides, there are only 5 or 6 days until the school anniversary. There's not enough time to break in all aspects. There's also the drama of lines. In a short time, it's impossible to reach the ideal state." Hu Mingxiu frowned and said, "You mean, this matter has to be decided by Wen Mengyao?" "Ning Shu, why are you getting angry at me? If they weren't dating, there would be no problems. If they weren't a couple, Hu Mingxiu and Wen Mengyao might still be working well together. It was probably because they had confirmed their relationship that some of their personal feelings were brought into work. Even some of the normal suggestions and requests at work would be seen as the other party despising him. For example, the client would be so happy that his heart was about to fly just by saying a few more words to Hu Mingxiu. As for Hu Mingxiu's requests, wasn't that something he should do? Unrequited love, an unrequited love, was probably the most bitter and sweet time in a relationship. The best part was probably when they were flirting with each other. It was when the relationship wasn't made clear. Once the relationship was made clear, some responsibilities had to be borne, although some responsibilities were just things that had been agreed upon. For example, if the girlfriend was angry, he had to coax her. If he didn't, he wouldn't have a girlfriend. Hu Mingxiu's expression was obviously unhappy. Many people probably told him that Wen Mengyao was the most suitable. It was not a big deal to give in to a girl and apologize. Su Mingxiu heard this too many times and had a rebellious mentality. "Ning Shu, I don't think so. Anyway, I can't be a host." Hu Mingxiu probably also felt that his reaction was a little too big. He relaxed his eyebrows and said, "I'm not saying that Wen Mengyao isn't good, it's just," Ning Shu almost covered his ears. I'm not listening." Bastard chanting scriptures, Hu Mingxiu stopped talking. Wen Mengyao was his girlfriend after all. How could he complain about his girlfriend in front of someone he didn't know? Not to mention that she was his girlfriend, even his other friends shouldn't have done that. It was equivalent to speaking ill of others behind their backs. Therefore, Hu Mingxiu smiled and said, "Then I'll go find the others." Ning Shu gave a fake smile. "You will definitely find it." The two of them brushed past each other and continued to run. Dan Qing's voice sounded in her mind. "Why wouldn't you agree? This is a good opportunity to get along with Hu Mingxiu. Let him see your beauty and talent." "Ning Shu, shut up. There's no talent or beauty." At such a delicate moment, how could he get close to her? Moreover, if there really was a 1 in 100, 1 in 1,000, or 1 in 10,000 chance that they could be together in the future, if she were to host on the same stage as Hu Mingxiu now, and it just so happened that the two of them had a conflict, even if they were to be together in the future, there would probably be people who would say that she was interfering. He said that he was taking advantage of the situation, taking advantage of the quarrel between the two of them. How tasteless. Gossips were unpleasant to hear, but these were the words of others after all, so it didn't have much of an effect. He was just afraid that the people involved would listen to them, such as Hu Mingxiu. They were in a beautiful relationship, but in the end, the gossip outside would always cast a shadow on a beautiful relationship. Dan Qing was probably close to rolling her eyes. She said, "It's all a shadow now. You're thinking about what will happen after you fall in love. He hasn't even remembered your name yet." Ning Shu clicked his tongue. "Take one step and look at 3 steps. You have to have a strategy for everything." There was no chance of success at all if she were to charge forward recklessly. The probability of success was very small. Dan Qing said, "You're so calm and indifferent because you don't like Hu Mingxiu. When you like someone, it's a kind of feeling that can't be rejected, resisted, calmed, or suppressed. Even if you're bruised and bleeding, you won't turn back. Ning Shu nodded. Yes, I don't like him. That's why I have the time to think so much. Dan Qing was probably rolling her eyes. I think you probably won't be able to pass this mission. It's such a simple mission. You don't need to use your brain or scheme. You don't need to do anything either. You might even be beaten half to death. Ning Shu was speechless. Was Dan Qing mocking her? In the past, Dan Qing didn't have such a strong presence. She probably felt that she was more useless now, so she was mocking her. Easy my ass. Wasn't there a saying that went, feelings can't be forced? Even if she could scheme, even if she could break a rock with her chest, if he didn't like her, it was useless. Things that could be solved with the brain were the easiest. Things that could be solved with the heart were the most difficult. People's hearts were fickle, but at the same time, people's hearts were eternal. The success of this mission depended entirely on one's heart. It was so fucking unreliable. Anyway, Ning Shu was already prepared for the possibility of failing this mission. She was in a very good mood. At most, she would fail the mission. Ning Shu really couldn't use her strength for this mission. She felt terrible and her heart hurt from holding it in. I want to complete the mission too, but I can't just grab Hu Mingshu's shoulders and shake him. You like me, but you love me. You like me, but you like me. You like me, but you like me. Hu Mingshu would probably run away when he saw her in the future. He was a lunatic. Ning Shu was sweating profusely from running. Recently, she had gotten used to running and could run a little more. On the way back, she met Hu Mingshu and Wen Mengyao. Wen Mengyao was also wearing a sports shirt. She was probably here to run. As for whether she was really here to run or had other motives, Ning Shu's eyes lit up. She felt that she was in the center of gossip. She couldn't help but want to know what the two of them were talking about. Yo, the two of them didn't look good. They must have quarreled. What were they quarreling about? She wasn't gossiping, but this body wanted to know. This was because of the body's inertia and had nothing to do with her. Ning Shu calmly ran past the two of them. She could vaguely hear Wen Mengyao questioning Hu Mingshu. She asked Hu Mingshu what he meant and whether he wanted to break up with her. That was why he kept finding fault with her. Hu Mingshu insisted that Wen Mengyao was thinking too much. It was clearly a work matter, so why did she say that? He said that he didn't despise Wen Mengyao, but just wanted a better show. Wen Mengyao obviously didn't accept it. Then why did you find other hosts? You're purposely making things difficult for me. I think you're just finding fault with me and despising me. Even though Ning Shu slowed down, that was all he could hear. To watch the new chapter of ZUI, please go to mobile address. Chapter 3797. After hearing the gossip that he wanted to hear, Ning Shu ran away. When he turned back, he could still see the two of them facing each other. Wen Mengyao raised her head slightly and looked at Hu Mingshu. If one looked at this scene, it would be very beautiful and warm. But the reality was that the two of them were quarreling. He didn't know if they would host together. He also didn't know how long the quarrel would last. Ning Shu felt that he was quite perverted. He was secretly observing others. Although it didn't affect others, it would affect his own mentality. It was a very bad thing to have one's happiness and anger controlled by others. It was especially bad for others to control one's happiness, anger, sorrow, and joy. Ning Shu didn't like it very much. This mission was really a pain in the neck. The more time passed, the more Ning Shu wanted to leave. He didn't even want to do this mission anymore. Staring at a person in the dark like this, sooner or later, he would get rabies and become a pervert. Sigh. Especially since the client's body had a lot of residual emotions. His obsession was very deep. He was deeply affected and miserable. Ning Shu was sweating all over. When he took a shower, he massaged his muscles to relax. After breakfast, he went to help set up the venue and did all kinds of chores. But when he went to the literature department, it was like a bomb had exploded. Someone told Ning Shu that when Meng Yao and Hu Mingxiu had broken up. This bomb exploded the people in the literature department. They didn't know how to react. The main thing was whether the two of them would refuse to share the stage because of the breakup. Ning Shu, although the situation seemed very bad, and it was related to the school's anniversary, Ning Shu's heart was secretly filled with joy. It was so perverted. Sure enough, a crush made people perverted. Ning Shu, I'm perverted too. Ning Shu didn't express any opinions. He didn't make any sarcastic remarks or show any joy. They had broken up. What was there to be happy about? Even if Hu Mingxiu and Wen Mengyao had broken up, he might not be with her. So there was no reason to be happy. But what made the arts department's jaws drop was that the two of them had publicly announced that they had broken up, but they were still willing to host on the same stage. Furthermore, both of them were in their best state. She suddenly became a workaholic. She worked hard and cooperated very well. Although they turned their heads away after getting off the stage and completely ignored each other, at least the two of them on the stage looked very compatible and good-looking. They were simply the best representatives of a golden couple. Standing on the brightly lit stage with tens of thousands of eyes, his appearance was quite dazzling. The two of them were quite good-looking. If it were anyone else, they would not be able to achieve such an effect. Although they didn't know what was wrong with the two of them, the fact that the two of them were willing to host the event together made everyone in the literature and art department heave a sigh of relief. As long as they could have a perfect celebration, it was fine. Ning Shu couldn't figure out what was going on. Why did they break up instead? There weren't so many messy things going on between the two of them. Did it prove once again that if you don't fall in love, you won't be pressured? Could it be that because it was a breakup, she had to be in her best condition to prove that the other party was blind? She was clearly such a good person. If she broke up with him, then he must be blind. He had to make her regret breaking up with him. Ning Shu couldn't help but ask someone, who was the one who broke up? I don't know. Anyway, I heard the news that the two of them broke up. As for who broke up, I don't know. Ning Shu felt very tired. This mission was really very tiring. It was also very difficult to do. He felt like he had become a lemon essence. His entire body was sour. Dan Qing couldn't stand it anymore. He said, "Dear, our suggestion is to give up on the mission. You guys were the ones who asked him to work hard on the mission. Now, you're the one who wants to give up." Ning Shu asked, "What did the client say?" The client probably couldn't stand it anymore. Even he couldn't stand it anymore. Dan Qing said, "The client didn't say anything. Everything is fine." Ning Shu was speechless. She could even stand it. She probably had a crush on him and didn't have much hope. The school's anniversary celebration ended perfectly. Everyone was very considerate. At least there weren't any accidents. It ended smoothly. Amidst the enthusiastic cheers, when Meng Yao and Hu Mingxiu looked at each other on stage. That feeling successfully made Ning Shu feel like he had eaten a lemon. It was extremely sour. Fuck. What kind of mission is this? I'm eating dog food every day. Even when the two of them were in conflict, Ning Shu felt like his stomach was stuffed with dog food. No wonder he couldn't lose weight no matter how hard he tried. It was all dog food. She felt that the two of them would definitely get back together. It didn't have anything to do with her. Indeed, it didn't take long for the two of them to get back together. They treated the entire literature and art department to a meal. It was also a reward to thank the literature and art department for their work for the school's anniversary celebration. Ning Shu didn't plan on going. If he went, he would have to eat and drink. All his weight loss during this period would be for nothing. Moreover, the food in the restaurant was all heavy. It was either a buffet or a hot pot. After eating, they had to go to the karaoke. In the entire literature and art department, only Ning Shu didn't go. It made her seem like Gij didn't want to join. Hu Mingxiu said, "You should go. Let's go together. It's more lively." Eating was secondary. Ning Shu still wanted to refuse. When Meng Yao held on to Hu Mingxiu's arm and said, "All right, let's go together. When someone pays the bill, just eat to your heart's content." Ning Shu didn't know why when Meng Yao always looked like she was declaring her ownership in front of her. She would hold on to Hu Mingxiu's arm for no reason. It really looked like she was declaring her sovereignty. Could it be that her crush was very obvious? It was written in her left eye and in her right eye, it was written in love. Or was she just jealous and thinking too much? Yes, she must be thinking too much. She was a little sensitive. That was why she was thinking too much. If he continued to refuse, it would seem like he didn't know what was good for him. Ning Shu also went. They ate a more high-end buffet. Hu Mingxiu paid the bill. Things like a buffet were to eat casually, but it was much easier to eat. Ning Shu only got some light vegetables. He didn't touch the other juices and meat. Even the fruits, Ning Shu felt that they weren't fresh. He didn't know how long these fruits had been there. If he wanted to eat, he could buy it. Although it was a little expensive, it was still fresher than this. When Meng Yao and Hu Mingxiu were at the next table, the two of them acted as if nothing had happened. They were still showing off their love and being sweet. Ning Shu almost wanted to smash the plate. This was a scam. Whoever wanted to do this mission could do it. He was about to be blinded by their public display of love. There was no chance for this mission. It was better to leave early and save time. To view the new chapter of Zoe, please go to mobile address. Chapter 3798. Although he knew that this mission was hopeless, he was still unhappy that he didn't complete it. It was a pity. Ning Shu ate the grass without tasting anything. It was very lively next door. Ning Shu felt that he was really an idiot who stood aloof from the world. Damn. After eating, Ning Shu went to the KTV to have fun until the latter half of the night. Ning Shu didn't sing a single song. He sat in the corner and looked at everyone's expressions under the blurred lights. Some were ambiguous, some were openly showing their love. Why did it feel like he was the only single dog in the world? Before the dormitory was closed, everyone returned to school. Ning Shu looked at Hu Mingxiu in front of him and wondered if he should try harder. At least before he left, he should try harder. Ning Shu tried hard to suppress the urge to rush over and confess to Hu Mingxiu. Sigh, there was no point in going up like this. He was still single. If he was single, it wouldn't be a big deal if he got rejected. At most, it would be a little awkward. But it was different now. He would definitely be rejected. Moreover, he would be questioned for his bad character. He was an executioner who interfered in other people's relationships. Forget it, he didn't care. Even if he wanted to confess, he had to wait until they broke up. Ning Shu asked, "If I give up the mission, when will I leave?" Dan Qing, the client hasn't responded yet. He didn't say that he was satisfied or dissatisfied. He probably still wants you to do the mission. He hasn't raised any objections. He's probably satisfied, so you can't leave for now. If the client judges that you failed the mission, you can leave this world. Ning Shu, fuck, so I have to stay in this world even if I don't want to do it? What the hell is this? I want to leave. Fuck. Do I really have to go all out and let the client judge that I failed the mission? In the past, I worked hard to complete the mission. This time, I have to act shamelessly and not complete the mission. Ning Shu really didn't know where to start with this mission. The only way was to make himself more outstanding. She wanted to make her fashion sense more elegant, to improve her taste, to have a better figure, and to have fairer skin. Other than that, Ning Shu didn't have any other ideas. First of all, he had to have an image that could make people feel good about him. He really wanted to strangle Hu Mingshu's neck and roar, "What don't you like about me? I can change it." But in reality, it was impossible. No one knew what the client was thinking. Since he didn't want to leave, he might as well enjoy himself in this world. His days in school were pretty good. It was also good to relax. Ning Shu looked at the mirror and touched his skin. He felt that it was more delicate and fairer. Moreover, his complexion was not bad. It was probably because he exercised every day. The food he ate was also healthy. He exuded a sense of vitality from the inside out. At the very least, he looked much better than before, giving off a sense of vitality. Not bad, not bad. At least he was healthy and energetic. His persistence during this period of time had paid off, and he had seen the motivation to persevere. Ning Shu still got up early every morning to run. His roommates in the dormitory were already used to it. When they heard the slight movement of Ning Shu, they turned over, pulled the quilt, and went to sleep. When Ning Shu went out for a run, he often met Hu Mingshu. Hu Mingshu looked at Ning Shu's ankle and ran from the side. He thought about it and stopped. He held Ning Shu in his mouth and said, "When you run, you should protect your ankles and knees. Wear a wrist guard on your knees." Ning Shu nodded and said, "Thank you, I know." He probably couldn't stand it anymore, so he reminded him. Hu Mingshu took out his mobile phone and said, "Let's exchange contact information. We are all running enthusiasts. We can communicate." It was really unexpected. Why did Hu Mingshu take the initiative to ask for her contact information? Of course, Ning Shu wouldn't refuse, not to mention that she originally had bad intentions towards Hu Mingshu. Now that she was in the tiger's mouth, she couldn't ask for more. Ning Shu took out her mobile phone and exchanged contact information with Hu Mingshu. Now she could peek at Hu Mingshu's circle of friends. Well, there was some progress. At least they had reached the point of exchanging contact information. In this way, to a certain extent, they had a common topic, although it was running. Well, now Dan Qing wouldn't say that she was slacking off. Ning Shu was just dawdling in this world. During the summer vacation, he went home directly. It was definitely easier to recuperate at home than at school. Maybe after 2 months, it would be different. He would be completely reborn. The main thing was to take care of his hair. Anyway, Ning Shu felt that his hairline was full of fine fragments of hair. If these hair could be hardened and longer, he could have more hair. It showed that his body maintenance during this time had paid off. His body gave a positive feedback. Sure enough, he didn't have to stay up late to exercise hard. It was just a little difficult to persist. However, in order to have a beautiful head, Ning Shu felt that he could persist. If he had beautiful and dense hair, it could at least add 3 points to his appearance. 3 points. Everything was developing in a good way. Ning Shu was happy in his heart. This mission was like retirement. Ning Shu returned home with the suitcase. The person who opened the door was Mother Rong. When she saw her daughter at the door, she didn't recognize her for a moment. She even asked, "Who are you looking for?" Ning Shu felt that this transformation was very successful. When they were in the same dormitory in school, they faced each other every day. She couldn't see any changes, but when she hadn't seen her client's parents for a while, she felt that her daughter had become very different. After knowing that this was her daughter, Mother Rong's first reaction was, "You're in love." Ning Shu was speechless. She wasn't in love. It was a secret love. Could love really make people beautiful? Mother Rong even stuck her head out of the door and looked around. She asked, "Your boyfriend didn't come back with you?" "Ning Shu, I'm not in love." "If you're not in love, why are you tidying yourself up? You've lost weight and become a little fairer. Ning Shu retorted, if I'm not in love, can't I tidy myself up? Mother Rong said matter-of-factly, of course. You're not in love. You want to be in love. That's why you tidy yourself up like this. Ning Shu, I actually can't refute that. Her indecent intentions were already on her face. Mother Rong carried a thermos and was about to bring food to Father Rong. Ning Shu took the thermos and was about to give Father Rong a surprise. When Father Rong saw Ning Shu, he recognized him and shouted, daughter, you're back and you're good-looking. With a smile on his face, he took the thermos from Ning Shu's hand. To watch the new chapter of Zui, please go to mobile address. Chapter 3799. Father Rong stared at Ning Shu as he ate. He even nodded and said, sure enough, girls change 18 times between childhood and womanhood. You've become much gentler now and look good in clothes. You used to be a tomboy. When they met with colleagues, Father Rong introduced Ning Shu to them. This is my daughter. She's back from college. Ning Shu, in the past, when clients came to the company to look for Father Rong basically didn't greet them. When they got close, Father Rong said, why are you here? I didn't hear you call me just now. Now that he saw him from afar, he quickly greeted him. He was undoubtedly his biological father. Even his family was like this, let alone outsiders. During the time he was home, Ning Shu basically didn't go out. Even when he went out, he would put on a thick layer of sunscreen and apply for a gym card, the kind that was more expensive. There was a coach watching over the card. Mother Rong was a little reluctant to ask for money. After all, 2 months of training would cost nearly 5,000 yuan. Father Rong, on the other hand, readily gave the money and asked Ning Shu to exercise well. This was the difference between men and women. Father Rong was a man after all. Even if he looked at his daughter, he still had a face recognition device. It was a good thing that his daughter could become more beautiful. Mother Rong glared at her husband but didn't say anything to stop him. Ning Shu took the money and applied for it without hesitation. During the 2 months of summer vacation, he basically sweated in the gym. Under the coach's guidance, the general exercises were correct and didn't hurt his body. The money was well spent. If he sprained his body and tendons, he wouldn't be able to exercise and would hurt his body. Under the coach's guidance, Ning Shu also learned a lot about fitness and what to pay attention to so that he wouldn't hurt his body. 2 months passed quickly. Because he sweated every day and basically didn't go out in the sun, his skin was much fairer. His figure was much slimmer and he looked better in clothes than before. Of course, when he was free, he still spied on Hu Mingshu's WeChat moments to see what he was doing during the summer vacation. Hu Mingshu didn't post many statuses. Of course, when Meng Yao also appeared a lot. It seemed that the two of them had a lot of fun during the summer vacation. Ning Shu, who had turned into a lemon essence, threw his phone away, pulled the blanket over his head, and went to sleep. Working out every day was fucking tiring. He didn't know if the two of them could be together. At least in the memory of the client, the two of them had been together for a very long time. When the two of them were in a relationship, the client had no chance. But even if the two of them broke up, the client still had no chance. Therefore, whether or not Hu Mingshu was single was not up to the client. When it was time for school to open, Ning Shu returned to school and walked into the dormitory in high spirits. His roommates couldn't recognize Ning Shu and exclaimed in surprise. She asked Ning Shu what he had been doing for the past 2 months. She wanted to know if he had fallen in love. Ning Shu just smiled and didn't say anything. Very good, at least in terms of changing his image, he did a good job. Ning Shu asked his roommate, "Do I look better than before?" Her roommate, "Of course she looks good. She's like a completely different person." Then Ning Shu was relieved. With this image, he was afraid that those who had seen him before would slowly be replaced by his current image. In the morning, when he was running in school, he bumped into Hu Mingxiu. Hu Mingxiu looked at Ning Shu suspiciously. Clearly, he wasn't sure if Ning Shu was the girl who had been running before. Ning Shu ignored him. She ignored his doubts and ran straight over. She felt that the gaze behind her was still following her like a shadow. Ning Shu was elated. He finally saw some results. If it wasn't for beauty, who would want to lose weight? Who wouldn't want to eat whatever they wanted to eat? Sigh, if I really became beautiful, I wouldn't have to care about that Hu Mingxiu at all. It was only when one was not good enough that one would hope for better things. When one was good enough, then what was once the best in one's eyes would probably become mediocre. How magical! While running, he received a lot of stares. The number of people who turned to look at him increased. He went back and took a shower. When he returned to his bedside, he picked up his phone. There were a lot of messages, and they were all from Hu Mingxiu. Most of them were from Hu Mingxiu, asking if the person he saw in the morning was Rong Jingbai. I, Nicholas Jingbai, will never change my name. Ning Shu was very proud. He rubbed his fingers together and wrote 2 words with an extremely inflated mood. Yes. Hu Mingxiu expressed his surprise. He said that he had changed so much in 2 months. Ning Shu said that he had worked out in the gym, so he had lost some weight. Then, Ning Shu unilaterally ended the conversation, saying that he was busy and couldn't talk about it. As for whether the other party had anything else to say, it was none of her business. She had just taken a shower, and now she had to apply sunscreen and go to class. Ning Shu woke up the other 3 roommates, saying that it was time for class. They had to get up quickly or they would be late. Speaking of which, ever since Ning Shu started running, no one in the dormitory had eaten. Ning Shu was an alarm clock for action. His roommates all slept in peace. Ning Shu felt that the burden on his shoulders had become heavier. After tidying up, the 4 of them went to the classroom. Anyway, Ning Shu had endless work to do every day. If he was not running, he was on the way to the library. He walked leisurely under the tree-lined path, then looked at the students coming and going, and the young couples holding hands. Anyway, Ning Shu had not been so relaxed in a long time. There was no such peaceful environment, no danger or worry. There was no problem of the sea of law here, no problem of the plain. Although it was a small place in the plain, it was a relatively pure ivory tower. Ning Shu felt that since the client did not let her go, she would enjoy the peaceful days here. She would treat it as if she was here for a vacation, not to do a mission. In addition to his own studies, Ning Shu would occasionally go to the literature and art department. The literature and art department would prepare many literature and art activities in the school, so he was quite busy. He would be called over to do things if he had nothing to do. Of course, once it was over, he would inevitably eat some dog food. When Meng Yao and Hu Mingxiu were always showing off their love as if there was no one else around. The main reason was that the 2 of them were too good-looking. Just by standing together, it was like showing off dog food. It was like watching an idol drama, not to mention how eye-catching it was. Ning Shu was used to being jealous. Occasionally, he liked to see these 2 people. Looking at good-looking people made him feel good. As for getting Hu Mingxiu and being together with Hu Mingxiu, Ning Shu felt that he had almost forgotten about it. What was there to be in a relationship? It was better to be beautiful. To view the new chapter of Zoe, please go to mobile address. Chapter 3800. What made Ning Shu happy was that she had been promoted to a small official and was in charge of some smaller activities, probably because she had been working hard during this period of time. It was a pleasant surprise. Also, the school had to give him funds for activities. If he could use it well, there would be some left over. The money could be used for other purposes. Ning Shu did not have any other skills, but he could be a little more serious when doing things. Probably because he was a little stupid when he was alive, he would do things that others thought were repetitive and useless. For example, repeatedly confirming the quality and price of some things. These were all small things. He did not need to use knives or guns. He did not need to fight with his bare hands. There was no danger to his life. It was simply wonderful. With a promotion, Ning Shu could also attend the student union. Then, he could be a bootlicker. Not to mention Hu Mingshu's character, Hu Mingshu's appearance was really pleasing to the eyes. This kind of person was active in the eyes of others. He was the kind that could not be hidden. He was suitable to be seen from afar and not touched. When the meeting ended, Hu Mingshu walked out of the conference room. He casually glanced around and saw Ning Shu. He asked casually, "Didn't you wear a wrist guard when you ran?" "Ning Shu, I wore it." When Meng Yao walked over and held Hu Mingshu's arm, she asked with a smile, "What are you talking about?" Ning Shu did not say anything. He felt that when Meng Yao had always been very strict with Hu Mingshu. Thinking about it, it was normal. With such a dazzling boyfriend, she must be nervous. Hu Mingshu was too attractive to girls. When Meng Yao was afraid that if Hu Mingshu talked to any girl casually, she might have a love rival. So even if she was with Ning Shu, she did not look that beautiful. But this Rong Jingbai did not look good at first glance. But after looking at her, she actually looked quite good. Her clothes were simple and elegant. Girls who had just entered university either pursued more exaggerated fashion or had not gotten rid of their rustic temperament. Simple and elegant clothes like this seemed a little old-fashioned at first glance. However, this kind of simple clothes showed its temperament when compared to exaggerated clothes. So when Meng Yao hurried over. However, when Meng Yao did not casually give Ning Shu a slap and say that he seduced her boyfriend. Anyone who was slightly more rational wouldn't be so brainless. Cripple. Moreover, nothing happened between the two of them. They weren't close to each other, which was normal for social interactions. Moreover, this Rong Jingbai didn't have the exaggerated reaction of a normal girl when she saw a handsome guy. She looked cold and indifferent, as if she had no interest in Hu Mingshu. However, when Meng Yao still felt uncomfortable in her heart. Her boyfriend was chatting with another girl. Of course, she had to interrupt and ask what they were talking about. Ning Shu only had one feeling, and that was that being with Hu Mingshu was really fucking tough. No matter how confident he would still be turned into a sensitive little girl by Hu Mingshu. What a little girl with a wild imagination. Rong Jingbai couldn't take it. Hu Mingshu took the lead to explain, "Nothing much. Just about running." When Meng Yao was a little confused. "What jogging?" Ning Shu said, "When I was running, President Hu kindly reminded me that I should wear knee pads." That's it. When Meng Yao's eyes wandered back and forth between Ning Shu and Hu Mingshu. She felt that there might be something going on, so she asked, "Running? What running? Did you run together?" Ning Shu denied it 3 times. No, don't talk nonsense. We've never run together." Hu Mingshu also explained, "No, we just met occasionally when we were running in the morning. It's not what you think." When Meng Yao said, "Then I'll run with you in the morning." Hu Mingshu nodded. "Okay." Ning Shu's mouth twitched. He was stuffed with dog food anytime and anywhere. This feeling was really stifling. He rolled his eyes and turned to leave. Ning Shu didn't have much progress with Hu Mingshu, but he had other gains. When he went to the library or when he was in class, there were boys who hit on him or found reasons to ask for his contact number. The current Rong Jingbai wasn't very beautiful, but she tidied herself up neatly. She was neat and tidy and looked very pleasing to the eye. When he was in university, he was in love. Those boys naturally set their eyes on Rong Jingbai. Some people hit on him, some people asked for his contact number, and some explicitly hinted. Ning Shu rejected them all. He didn't even think of dating these babies. Ning Shu felt that according to his age and the age of the boys, well, they were all the age of their ancestors. They were babies. And now he still had evil intentions towards Hu Mingxiu. How could he date these babies? Ning Shu still lived a disciplined life and pervertedly peeped at Hu Mingxiu. But in fact, he didn't have much interaction with Hu Mingxiu. He always felt that Rong Jingbai was secretly in love with an imaginary Hu Mingxiu. In fact, it had nothing to do with Hu Mingxiu. When they ran in the morning, they would nod to each other when they met two people, and then run straight away after passing each other. In the first few days, when Meng Yao wore running sportswear and followed Hu Mingxiu. But after a few days, when Meng Yao couldn't hold on anymore. She was too lazy to get up early to run with Hu Mingxiu. And according to Wen Mengyao's insistence, there was indeed no relationship between the two. There was no doubt in her heart. When Meng Yao couldn't hold on anymore and was too lazy to run. Although they only ran for a few days, Ning Shu was still full of dog food. Even the running was full of the sour smell of love. Hu Mingxiu occasionally talked to Ning Shu. Of course, they were all connected through the screen. They also talked about running. More often than not, it was Hu Mingxiu who was talking. Ning Shu casually responded. Most of the time, Ning Shu unilaterally ended the conversation. Obviously, he didn't want to say anything more to Hu Mingxiu. Although there might be some progress if they chatted and flirted, Ning Shu didn't want to do so. Dan Qing asked, "Are you loosening the reins only to grasp them better, or are you just being pretentious?" It was obviously a good opportunity, but he was so indifferent. It could be said that he was loosening the reins only to grasp them better, but it was also a kind of strategy. People were probably cheap. The more they ignored you, the more they couldn't get you, and the more they wanted you. Dan Qing was surprised. She didn't know that you were such a scum. You were suddenly hot and cold, and you could control other people's feelings. Ning Shu, no, I'm just worried that I can't control my hands and I'm going to reach out to him with sinful hands. I can't control my body, I can't control my brain. I'm hot-blooded and I'm about to blurt out a confession. If you're fine, don't talk to me. Otherwise, I can't control myself. To watch the new chapter of Zui, please go to mobile address. Chapter 3801. I feel like I can't breathe. I feel like I'm suffocating. Can't talk too much, can't touch too much. Get lost. Ning Shu felt that his current body would overthink if he spoke a few more words to her. His heartbeat started to become irregular and his face started to heat up. He felt like he was walking on clouds and started to float. Immediately after, his brain started to uncontrollably fantasize about the two of them being together, holding hands, kissing, walking down the aisle, and who the child would look like. But what if his father didn't like him? They would face a lot of difficulties, but they would definitely overcome it like in an idol drama and be happy together. Even if his parents didn't like him, he would work hard to get their approval. Anyway, the other party only said one sentence, and his body and brain had already imagined a romantic idol drama and a melodramatic family drama. In order to keep his brain still, he should stay away from Hu Mingxiu. Especially now that Hu Mingxiu had a girlfriend, he couldn't interfere. Even if the two of them were to break up, it couldn't be because of him. He had to keep her out of the picture, no matter how excited he was, he had to be calm. In the meantime, when Meng Yao and Hu Mingxiu seemed to have broken up again. Between couples, if they didn't break up once, it wouldn't be called a relationship. Ning Shu's heart didn't waver. He did what he needed to do. He persevered with his exercise and skin care. Beauty required capital. He needed to buy good skincare products and clothes. Even if he didn't buy branded clothes, he still needed to buy clothes that looked good. Only then would he look energetic. During the summer vacation, he asked his family for money to buy a gym card. If he asked for more, Mother Rong would explode. So he needed to be self-reliant. Ning Shu felt that he couldn't do a job like tutoring on the weekends. His education level wasn't very high. Besides, if he met a naughty child, Ning Shu felt that he might not be able to control his temper and beat the child. Not to mention tutoring fees, he might even have to pay for the medical expenses. The most basic thing was that he didn't have the ability to teach the child. He could either work as a shop assistant or distribute flyers to support himself. Usually, Ning Shu would choose to work indoors. The sun made people old and dark. Earning money was to make herself more beautiful. Basking in the sun was impossible. She did not want to bask in the sun in this lifetime. She was a little busy every day, so she didn't have time to think about Hu Mingxiu. No matter how much they showed off their affection, she couldn't see it anyway. Hu Mingxiu sent more messages to Ning Shu as he ran more often in the morning. Occasionally, he would sigh and say to Ning Shu, "This is the first time I've seen a girl so persistent in running." When Meng Yao persisted for a few days and was too lazy to run anymore. With Meng Yao's figure, she didn't need to deliberately lose weight. It didn't matter whether she ran or not. But Hu Mingxiu was disappointed. If the two of them ran together every morning, it would feel different. Seeing Hu Mingxiu sighing, Ning Shu coldly replied, "Thanks for the compliment. You too." Then, there was an awkward silence, followed by awkwardness. They didn't know what to say. On the other side, Hu Mingxiu kept typing, but there was no message sent over. He probably wrote and deleted and wrote. Finally, Hu Mingxiu sent a message, "I think you're quite cold." Ning Shu shook his head crazily. "No, I'm not cold. I'm just restraining myself, suppressing the perverted thoughts in my heart and the evil desire in my body. I want to kiss, hug, and raise you high. So cute, so handsome, hurry up and give me a kiss. Yeah. My heart is so surging, so unrestrained. But on the surface, I'm a cold flower. Bah, not a flower, but a cold stone. The kind of cold stone that can't be warmed even if you want to. But my heart has long been molten lava." Ning Shu's days were peaceful. Other than the boys who occasionally hit on her, Ning Shu very coldly rejected them all. She didn't even give them her contact information. She didn't even give them a chance. Over time, some people said that Rong Jingbai was very arrogant. Of course, there were one or two boys who were rejected and felt uncomfortable. They always said a few bad words. When Ning Shu heard this, he just treated it as a cool breeze. He didn't care at all. On the other hand, Hu Mingxiu and Wen Mengyao seemed to want to break up. They were a couple. If they didn't quarrel or break up, it wouldn't be called a break-up. It would definitely be called a break-up. The onlookers were full of dog food. Woof woof woof, but this time, they really broke up. The two of them had even changed their couple profile pictures. Hu Mingxiu also expressed his sad feelings, putting an end to this relationship. Wen Mengyao also looked quite sad. For a period of time, she didn't really care about the literature and art department. Whenever there was an event, she would just let her know and pass the work to her subordinates. Although she had fallen out of love, Wen Mengyao still tried her best to make herself look good. Although she had fallen out of love, she was still in a good state. In short, she was stubborn and showed it everywhere. But in reality, Hu Mingxiu was the fastest to walk out of this relationship. He did what he was supposed to do. In the morning, he still ran, managed the student union, participated in club activities, played basketball, causing the girls on the basketball court to scream. And when Meng Yao was strong on the outside but weak on the inside. Ning Shu clicked his tongue. A man could get out of the situation, but a woman couldn't. But the two of them said that they didn't want to get back together. Ning Shu thought that the two of them were just messing around and then getting back together. It was like the incident with the school anniversary host. They would be fine after messing around for a while. He didn't expect that after so long, they still hadn't gotten back together. It was definitely impossible. But Ning Shu was indifferent. He wasn't happy or unhappy. Even if the two of them broke up, it wouldn't be his turn. Moreover, the two of them had just broken up. Hu Mingxiu couldn't find a new girlfriend immediately. It was like rushing to the market. It was too tiring. Hu Mingxiu didn't do anything wrong to Wen Mengyao. Firstly, he didn't cheat on her. Secondly, he didn't cheat on her. But it always gave people a feeling that Hu Mingxiu was just playing around. It seemed like he didn't really like a girl. This was probably the reason why all the girlfriends who had been with Hu Mingxiu before couldn't accept it. But it also formed a strange phenomenon. Everyone knew that Hu Mingxiu liked to date beautiful and outstanding girls. After dating Hu Mingxiu, it was as if they were labeled as beautiful and outstanding. It was as if their value had increased and they were given a beautiful romantic relationship. There were a lot of things mixed in. This was also why even after breaking up, the girls didn't mess around and pester him. To view the new chapter of Zoe, please go to mobile address. Chapter 3802. She had probably formed a kind of awareness that Hu Mingxiu would not be with any girl for a long time. When she was with Hu Mingxiu would often give her gifts, some beautiful and exquisite small objects or beautiful bags. He satisfied all the needs of a girl in a relationship. Hu Mingxiu was flirtatious but not vulgar. He had a few girlfriends, and all of them were beautiful. The boys in the college were so envious that their eyes turned red. He got all the campus belles and department belles. These girls clearly knew that Hu Mingxiu was a playboy, but they would rather date him. He simply did not give others a way out. Probably because of this, after Wen Mengyao broke up with Hu Mingxiu, Wen Mengyao just puffed herself up at her own cost. She did not insist on pestering Hu Mingxiu. If she really pestered him, wouldn't she be laughed at, especially Hu Mingxiu's ex-girlfriend? So Wen Mengyao just held on and did not think of persuading him to stay. Maybe she was waiting for Hu Mingxiu to speak. But Hu Mingxiu seemed to be determined to break up and did not speak at all. They broke up cleanly. Wen Menyao's heart was probably so stifled that she vomited blood. After Hu Mingxiu broke up, he sent more messages to Ning Shu than before. Of course, they were all hardcore running and fitness topics. Occasionally, he would ask if he had eaten and what he was doing. When he was working part-time, Ning Shu would sometimes receive frequent messages. Ning Shu would not reply when he was working. Making money was more important. If he replied to messages and was caught playing with his phone, he would lose his money. He might be asked to leave. Of course, since Ning Shu did not reply, Hu Mingxiu tactfully stopped sending messages. Ning Shu realized that Hu Mingxiu must have some feelings for him. This feeling was definitely not even like, it could only be described as interest. Because Rong Jingbai's foundation was indeed not good. She was not a natural beauty. Maybe Hu Mingxiu wanted to challenge himself and find a girl who was not so beautiful. It could also be that after eating exquisite delicacies, they wanted to eat some plain porridge and side dishes to change their taste. Of course, bland food could only be eaten for a while. Bland and tasteless food would not taste good at all. It was just a little interest. Ning Shu was a little conflicted. Should he ignore it or not? At this time, the client should speak up. After she came back, she might be able to fall in love with Hu Mingxiu. As for how long they could be together, that was not certain. Moreover, Ning Shu was like a wooden man in front of Hu Mingxiu. Even through the screen, Ning Shu's words jumped out one by one. He had never shown his personality. His style of speaking was cold and indifferent, just like a robot. Even if the client came back with a change in personality, it could be understood that love always made people sick. She became more like a little girl and loved to pester people. Of course, according to the frequency of Hu Mingxiu changing girlfriends, Ning Shu felt that the two of them wouldn't be together for long. But it was also possible that Hu Mingxiu would be close to her. In short, everything was full of uncertainty. Ning Shu asked Dan Qing, "What did the client say? Do they want to come back?" Dan Qing, "Wait a moment, I'll ask." After a while, Dan Qing said, "She said she wants to wait a little longer. She doesn't have the confidence. If she goes back, she's afraid she won't be able to control herself and will scare him away. Now, it was just a little bit. Maybe when she came back, this little bit would be killed by Hu Mingxiu and be scared away. She might not even have fallen in love once. The client said you can maintain your elegance and coldness. But she really can't maintain it in front of Hu Mingxiu now. Hu Mingxiu might like your elegance and coldness. You have to stabilize her first." Ning Shu, fuck, these words were really creepy. Why did it sound like they were snatching someone? Was she elegant and cold? Of course not. She was clearly a block of wood who did not have feelings and did not smile. Also, she was very wooden and did not like to talk. In any case, Ning Shu had a cold face every day in this world. He was the kind of person who spoke awkwardly. He felt like he was doing whatever he wanted. Ning Shu did not like to reply to Hu Mingxiu's messages anymore. Out of 5 messages, Ning Shu might not even reply to one. If she didn't like being cold, then she should be cold to the end. Ning Shu could not be bothered to reply. At this time, the client should have come back. There was already a good start. The rest of the development would depend on the client. If she still didn't come back, was she going to get married? It was tiring to give birth to a child. Was she going to give birth to the child before leaving? After getting married, there was still the possibility of divorce. After giving birth, she still had to raise the child. It was equally tiring. Ning Shu said directly to Dan Qing, "Either she comes back now or I've failed my mission. Let her show her boldness." If she was so timid, she really couldn't do anything. Besides, even if Hu Mingxiu was not around, there were other boys. This was a matter of attitude. Without a firm persistence and attitude, even if happiness was in front of her, she would not be able to grasp it. Ning Shu understood what the client meant. She wanted her to come back after she had established a more stable relationship with Hu Mingxiu, such as a couple. But in this world, other than the relationship between parents and children, what other relationship was eternal? Dan Qing, "I'll tell her." Wait a moment. Judging from Dan Qing's voice, he seemed to be mentally tired. Ning Shu gloated and said, "Let me tell you, this kind of work is the most tiring. You don't know where to use your strength. Don't do this in the future. It's good for you, good for me, and good for everyone." Dan Qing said, "If you confirm your relationship with Hu Mingxiu, she will come back immediately. Hurry up and confirm your relationship with him." Ning Shu, ha ha ha. If she really rushed out and exposed this layer of window paper to Hu Mingxiu's heart would probably be sick to death. "I just said a few more words to you. You think I like you? Aren't you thinking too much?" A confession was not a bugle call to start a fight, but a bugle call to victory. Only when the relationship reached a certain level could a confession be made. So now was definitely not the time to confess. It would not succeed at all if the time was not right. Therefore, this kind of ambiguous period should be done by the client herself. As for whether this ambiguous period could be successful or not, it was not her responsibility. It could only be said that now Rong Jingbai had become a little outstanding and had begun to catch Hu Mingxiu's eye. Dan Qing said, "She thought about it again and again and said that she would come back." Ning Shu nodded and listed the day's itinerary and the things to do. This was the most important thing. In particular, he said that he had to let Rong Jingbai be stable. If she did not break the window paper. To watch the new chapter of Zui, please go to mobile phone address. Chapter 3803. In that case, even if Rong Jingbai was anxious, she had to be calm and steady. Hu Mingxiu was the one who exposed this layer of window paper. If Hu Mingxiu didn't have this intention, then these two really had no chance. Speaking of which, whether the relationship stopped moving forward or moved forward, Hu Mingxiu had the initiative. This was very hurtful, and Rong Jingbai could only wait passively. Because what Rong Jingbai was looking forward to, worried about, and afraid of losing was more than what Hu Mingxiu had. This was an unfair war, and the disparity was so great because Rong Jingbai liked Hu Mingxiu very, very much, and Hu Mingxiu didn't necessarily like Rong Jingbai. Even if one wanted to turn passivity into initiative, it was a relatively difficult thing to do. One could only stop passivity and wait. Ning Shu wrote down all these requests and did what needed to be done. As for whether these two people could achieve positive results, Ning Shu didn't know. However, as long as one made oneself good enough and outstanding enough, one would be able to meet good people. If Rong Jingbai was still the Rong Jingbai from before, Hu Mingxiu probably wouldn't even bother with Ning Shu. It was that realistic. Ning Shu hoped that after the client came back, she would also have such self-discipline, beauty, and confidence. At least, she would have a good attitude towards life. Even if she couldn't be with Hu Mingxiu, she could still have a good life. Ning Shu estimated that this mission might not have a lot of soul power. After all, it was a bit slacking, and there was a hint of threatening the client. Ning Shu closed the book and said to Dan Qing, "Then let's leave." Then, with a flash, Ning Shu returned to the system space. After completing 2 missions in a row, it should be time to go back and deal with the star stones. Maybe Fa Tian and the others might also come back. He had to go back and take a look, then continue to loosen the inventory. Ning Shu sat on the sofa and saw a plate of fruits on the sofa. There were some water droplets on the fruits, and they looked crystal clear and very delicious. Ning Shu took one and threw it into his mouth. It was cool and sweet, and his soul was very comfortable. Ning Shu ate a few in a row and asked, "They came back?" Other than Fa Tian and Little Mouse, no one else had prepared these things. "I did come back once, but I left when I saw that you weren't around," Dan Qing said. Ning Shu opened the attribute panel while eating the fruit. Name, Ning Shu. Age, 27 level, Super Mission Taker Points card, 267 plus 10, 10 million points per card. Soul value, 35 plus 1 HP, 32 plus 1 Wisdom, 43 plus 1 Luck, 29 plus 1 Charm, 19 plus 1 Spiritual Power, 44 plus 1 Combat Power, 31 plus 1 Aptitude, 38 plus 1 Faith, 25,000 Merit, 0 Soul Strength, 5 plus 10 Authorization Ticket, 0 Pure Heart, none Laws of Enlightenment, Water, Wood, Earth. Prophecy Construct Worlds, World of Reincarnation, World Tree Items, Calming Halo, Calming Pill, Amulet 4, Upgraded Amulet plus 2, Faith Bell Honorary Titles, Goddess of War, Selfless Ancestor Skills, 5th Ring Shooting Technique, Intermediate Fighting Technique, Intermediate Level Poison Technique, Beginner Level Business Management Knowledge, Beginner Level Code Programming, Beginner Level Lawyer Skill, Sage Ghost Catching Skill, Beginner Level Cooking Skill, Intermediate Level Embroidery Skill, Trash Hypnosis Aura, Mother of the World, Queen's Blessing, Sister Model Worker, Chen Shi's Blessing, Leader Aura, Grass Blessing, Best Friend for Life, Meow Meow Meow's Blessing, Life-Saving Hand, Zhu Susu's Blessing, Founding Woman, Chen Ermiai's Blessing, Beauty in Law, Chen Ning's Blessing, Bane of the Blood Clan, Jasmine's Blessing, Transcending Race Communication, Bai Sanyang's Blessing, Brave Heart, Wang Ying's Blessing, Bloodthirsty Tyrant, Ni Bingyan's Blessing, Heart of Peace and Joy, Luck Aura, Faith Aura, Longevity. Completed Rong Jingbai's Wish, Mission Completion 80%. Received 10-point cards, 8 attribute points, and 60% of the soul power contributed by the soul power user. Sure enough, it wasn't a lot. The completion rate was only 80%. Previously, it was said to be 90% of the soul power. It was probably because the mission completion rate wasn't high enough that he couldn't get 90%. Ning Shu wasn't disappointed. After all, he didn't expect to complete this mission. Now that the mission was completed, it was already an extra reward. He wasn't disappointed. Ning Shu went to deal with the Star Stone, and Rong Jingbai also returned to her body. Rong Jingbai went to the bathroom and looked at herself in the mirror. She seemed to have paled, and the skin on her face had tightened. Her eyes were bright, and her spirit was very good. She was full of energy from the inside out. It was very beautiful. Rong Jingbai felt that her mental state was better than ever. The phone in her pocket vibrated. She took it out and saw that it was a message from Hu Mingxiu. Rong Jingbai immediately felt her heart beating violently, and her face was full of bright red. Her fingers trembled as she replied. Then, she looked at the phone closely. When she saw the reply, Rong Jingbai wanted to jump up and express her excitement. Hu Mingxiu replied to her. Rong Jingbai immediately replied to the message. Hu Mingxiu had unilaterally ended the conversation. Rong Jingbai wanted to continue and wanted to talk to Hu Mingxiu more. Rong Jingbai opened the drawer and took out a thick notebook. The words on it were a little ugly, but the content could be seen clearly. Rong Jingbai looked at it and felt that she had talked too much just now. Running every day. Looking at such a beautiful body, of course, she had to run every day. The things in the notebook made her body so good. Then, she was a good thing. She could do as she wished. Rong Jingbai insisted on running every morning. In the beginning, it was very painful. Although this body was used to it, Rong Jingbai's mind was not used to it. Every morning when she woke up, she would apply a thick layer of sunscreen on her body. After running, she would be drenched in sweat. She also had to take a shower. It was very troublesome. When Rong Jingbai couldn't endure it, she looked at her face and her figure. These things had to be paid a price. Another reason for her persistence was that she could see Hu Mingxiu every morning. It was wonderful. Just this reason made Rong Jingbai wake up early every morning and run tirelessly. When she saw Hu Mingxiu, Rong Jingbai didn't feel tired anymore. It was really like love. Yes, this was love. Hu Mingxiu's attitude towards Rong Jingbai was a little softer now. When he saw Rong Jingbai, he would smile. His snow-white teeth could dazzle people's eyes. Rong Jingbai felt dizzy, very dizzy. She was happy as if she was stepping on clouds. Even if they weren't together, Rong Jingbai felt very happy. She could even vaguely feel that Hu Mingxiu had feelings for her. The relationship between the two was ambiguous, but it was also the kind that tickled her heart and lungs. To watch the new chapter of Zoe, please go to mobile address. Chapter 3804. This kind of ambiguous and passionate relationship was the most beautiful and torturous. There were countless expectations and fantasies in her heart. Gradually, the conversation between the two through the screen became more and more. From some of the more hardcore sports and fitness, it gradually changed to some more casual conversations. This was a good sign. Occasionally, when Rong Jingbai didn't go for a run, Hu Mingxiu would send messages to ask if she was not feeling well and if she had taken medicine. In short, it had developed to the point where friends helped each other, which made Rong Jingbai very happy. Rong Jingbai tentatively asked if they would like to run together in the morning. The words had been typed, but Rong Jingbai was very hesitant to send it. If Hu Mingxiu refused, it would be very embarrassing. Maybe even the current situation would be lost. Rong Jingbai trembled and felt very uncomfortable. She was hesitant and had a lot of worries in her heart. In the end, Rong Jingbai plucked up the courage and sent a line of words. Then she sat still and waited for the other party's response. After a long time, the other party sent a "okay," which made Rong Jingbai so excited that she even jumped up to vent her joy. Seeing Rong Jingbai like this, her roommates asked her what had happened. Rong Jingbai calmed down and said that she had lost weight and was happy. Her roommates all clicked their tongues. The next morning, Rong Jingbai got up early and waited at the appointed place. Hu Mingxiu came at the appointed time. Seeing Rong Jingbai, he asked, "You've been waiting for a long time." Rong Jingbai shook her head and denied, "Not long. I just arrived." The two set out for a run together. The heart was beating fast when running, and there was Hu Mingxiu, who made people's hearts beat faster. They ran side by side without talking. Hu Mingxiu was a very eye-catching person. Those who knew Hu Mingxiu couldn't help but look at Rong Jingbai next to him. After running for a long time, there were rumors that Rong Jingbai and Hu Mingxiu were dating. If they were not a couple, how could they run together? Even Rong Jingbai's roommates heard about it and forced her to confess, asking if Rong Jingbai was dating Hu Mingxiu. Rong Jingbai's heart was in a mess. She felt both sweet and panicked, worrying that Hu Mingxiu would alienate her because of this rumor. In the face of her roommate's interrogation, Rong Jingbai endured the bitterness in her heart and repeatedly denied it. She only said that both of them liked to run and that they were running buddies who ran together. The roommate's expression was very strange. "Oh, it's Lei Feng." Rong Jingbai was afraid that Hu Mingxiu would distance himself from her because of this matter, so she quickly sent a message to Hu Mingxiu and told him that they would not run together in the future, lest these rumors become more and more outrageous. Hu Mingxiu said directly, "If they want to spread it, then let it be. What do you think?" Rong Jingbai was about to faint. She knew every word of Hu Mingxiu's words, but when they were put together, Rong Jingbai wasn't sure what Hu Mingxiu was saying was what she was thinking. Rong Jingbai didn't even dare to ask what Hu Mingxiu meant. She felt like she was dreaming. Now that her dream was about to come true, she didn't quite believe it. She felt that it was an illusion, a dream. Rong Jingbai couldn't help but bite the back of her hand. It hurt a lot. Rong Jingbai's expression kept changing. She was happy, but she was afraid that it was fake. She was especially sad. After a while, the sound of a message on her phone reminded Rong Jingbai. It was a message from Hu Mingxiu. "I'm downstairs in your dormitory. Come down, let's meet and talk." Rong Jingbai stuck her head out the window and saw that Hu Mingxiu was really downstairs. She quickly packed up and ran downstairs. Hu Mingxiu saw Rong Jingbai and smiled at her. "Then will you be my girlfriend?" Rong Jingbai almost cried. She sniffed and nodded hard. "Okay." Then Rong Jingbai became Hu Mingxiu's official girlfriend. The two of them ran together every morning, went on dates on weekends, and talked for a long time at night. Rong Jingbai felt like she was soaking in a honey pot, but the fear in her heart was not reduced at all. The most intuitive feeling was that Rong Jingbai bought a lot of clothes. Every time she went out on a date, Rong Jingbai didn't know what to wear to make herself more beautiful. A woman would doll herself up for the man she liked. She bought a lot of cosmetics and spent a lot of time learning how to put on makeup from beauty bloggers. After washing and applying, her makeup skills improved a lot. When she couldn't persist and found it troublesome, she was full of motivation when she thought of Hu Mingxiu. Now, every time Hu Mingxiu asked Rong Jingbai out to play, they had to wait for a long time. Once they came out, Rong Jingbai was like a different person. Her face was pink and white, with long false eyelashes and heavy-colored lips. In addition, she had lost weight. Even if she wore some trendy clothes. She was also a modern girl. But Hu Mingxiu frowned and looked at Rong Jingbai. "You don't have to be like this. You're fine like you usually are." Perhaps in Hu Mingxiu's heart, he was used to Rong Jingbai's sunny and healthy appearance, not the modern girl. So Hu Mingxiu felt that something was wrong. It was probably because his previous girlfriends were all natural beauties. They looked very good with a little makeup. But Rong Jingbai seemed to have gone through a big project of applying makeup. It felt a little greasy, not as refreshing as Rong Jingbai's usual appearance. Rong Jingbai saw the disapproval on Hu Mingshu's face. Her heart suddenly jumped and she asked, "Don't I look good like this?" She felt a little wronged in her heart. She got up early and worked hard until now, just to present her best appearance in front of Hu Mingshu. It would be best if she could amaze Hu Mingshu. Even if she wasn't, she wanted Hu Mingshu to say that she was beautiful. But Hu Mingshu's reaction made Rong Jingbai feel cold in her heart. It was like a basin of cold water poured on hot coal. Rong Jingbai couldn't help but ask, "Do you dislike me? I'm the least beautiful among your girlfriends." Rong Jingbai felt very inferior in her heart. She did this in order to reduce the gap between her and Hu Mingshu's previous girlfriends. Rong Jingbai heard some people whispering, especially girls. They wondered why Hu Mingshu would date Rong Jingbai. His previous girlfriends were not as beautiful and elegant as Rong Jingbai. If Rong Jingbai could be with Hu Mingshu, then ordinary girls would have hope. There were also people guessing that Hu Mingshu would break up with Rong Jingbai. Some were cynical, some were jealous. In short, they were not optimistic about Rong Jingbai and Hu Mingshu. Rong Jingbai heard it in her heart. It couldn't be said that she was not anxious. When she was anxious, the pressure was particularly great. Rong Jingbai tried to make herself look better, but now she was rejected by Hu Mingshu. This made Rong Jingbai more anxious. To watch the new chapter of Zui, please go to mobile phone address. Chapter 3805. She didn't know what to do. Rong Jingbai's voice trembled. "I'm dressing up like this to give you face." Hu Mingshu disagreed. "Why do I need you to give me face?" Rong Jingbai said bitterly, "People say that I'm not good enough for you. I'm not pretty." Hu Mingshu said, "Why do you care what others say and what others think? We're in a relationship. It's none of their business." Rong Jingbai looked at Hu Mingshu. He was so confident, but she couldn't do it. There were too many noises around her that would affect her. Rong Jingbai wanted to ask Hu Mingshu if he regretted dating her, but she didn't dare to ask. Rong Jingbai's heart was bitter. She wanted to cry. Hu Mingshu looked at Rong Jingbai and said, "Go upstairs and take a shower. I'll take you to a fun place. How about an amusement park?" With such a bitter expression, she didn't want to watch some sad movies. The more she watched, the more miserable she would be. "Change your skirt and change into pants. Go." Hu Mingshu touched Rong Jingbai's head. Rong Jingbai immediately nodded and ran upstairs. She took off her makeup, changed into jeans and a t-shirt, tied her hair into a ponytail, and went out simply. Hu Mingshu looked at Rong Jingbai and nodded with satisfaction. "Let's go." Although the dispute this time was resolved by Hu Mingshu's means, some things would still exist even if they were covered up. Rong Jingbai was deeply affected by the noises around her. She felt that she wasn't good enough for Hu Mingshu. No one around her supported her. They all felt that they wouldn't last long with Hu Mingshu. Hu Mingshu couldn't last long with those beautiful girls, let alone Rong Jingbai. Everyone was waiting for the two of them to break up. They seemed to be sure that they would break up soon. Even her roommates, although they didn't say it, thought so in their hearts. Sometimes they even said, to be able to have a relationship with a boy like Hu Mingshu, it's not a waste of life. But Rong Jingbai wanted a lot. She wanted to be with Hu Mingshu for a long time. The more she wanted, the more she felt pain. Rong Jingbai's wish was to be with Hu Mingshu. But when they were together, Rong Jingbai felt pain. It was even more painful than looking at Hu Mingshu from afar. In the past, as long as she spoke to Hu Mingshu, she would feel extremely blissful. But now that he was in front of her and he was her boyfriend, what was wrong? Rong Jingbai couldn't bear it any more. She loved to torture her face more and more. Her makeup skills were getting better and better. But Hu Mingxiu said that there was no need to be like this. But Rong Jingbai said that she was good-looking so that others would shut up. It was all for the sake of this relationship. Hu Mingxiu looked deeply at Rong Jingbai. You're not doing this for me. You're doing this for yourself. This is between us. They're not our parents. Why should we listen to their opinions? Rong Jingbai was speechless for a long time. She wanted to gain recognition and let others think that she was worthy of Hu Mingxiu. After Ning Shu had dealt with the star stones, he returned to the system space and took a look at Rong Jingbai. He saw that the two of them had gotten together as they wished. But now that they were together, it was such a twisted situation. Rong Jingbai wasn't as outstanding as Hu Mingxiu. Whether it was her appearance or her way of doing things, these were undeniable. Whether it was jealousy, gloating, watching the show, or not, it was actually the truth. But Rong Jingbai couldn't accept this fact. She even tried her best to deny it. That was why it was like this. Ning Shu sighed. This was how people work together. If they worked together well, they could be together. If they stayed together for a long time, they wouldn't be able to work together. Every minute they spent together was torture. It seemed that Rong Jingbai and Hu Mingxiu's work together was a little difficult. Rong Jingbai liked Hu Mingxiu. Of course, she liked him a lot. But some things couldn't be solved just because she liked him. What Rong Jingbai did was for herself, for Hu Mingxiu, and for this relationship. But Hu Mingxiu felt that Rong Jingbai didn't need to do this. Rong Jingbai actually made herself so uncomfortable because of someone unrelated. The two of them probably couldn't be together. If Rong Jingbai couldn't overcome her psychological burden. And being together with Rong Jingbai, Hu Mingxiu also felt uncomfortable. He needed to protect Rong Jingbai's fragile heart often. He was afraid that if he said something wrong, it would stimulate Rong Jingbai's fragile self-esteem. The two of them were especially uncomfortable. Since they were so uncomfortable, why were they still together? To torture themselves? Rong Jingbai was more and more frightened. The more frightened she was, the more she wanted to do something. She wanted to grab onto something. She felt that she had lost something, but she didn't know how to keep it. Rong Jingbai vaguely felt something. She held Hu Mingxiu's hand sadly. Can we not be like this? I can change. Hu Mingxiu shook his head. I think it's my fault. If he didn't insist on dating Rong Jingbai, she would still be that energetic girl. Probably because he gave Rong Jingbai too much pressure. Rong Jingbai's tears flowed down. She shook her head. It's not your fault. It's my fault. Hu Mingxiu said, in the future, you'll be like before. Seeing you like this, I feel uncomfortable and a little sad. At this time, Hu Mingxiu roughly understood. Some people and some things, when seen from afar, were so beautiful, lively, and talkative. When he got close and got it, it wasn't like that. His approach made these girls become bad. But when they became bad, Hu Mingxiu's solution was to break up with them. Suddenly, Hu Mingxiu felt that he was really a scumbag. When he broke up with them, he felt that those girls were different from what he had imagined. Their lively and beautiful girls had become unreasonable. It seemed that there was no way to communicate with them. He always felt that their thoughts were not in the same dimension. In the end, they would break up. Of course, Hu Mingxiu wouldn't treat his girlfriend badly. When they broke up, he would compensate her. For example, he gave Rong Jingbai a set of expensive sportswear, 2 pairs of shoes, wrist guards, knee pads and so on. When Rong Jingbai saw these things, her tears fell. She said, I don't want these things of yours. I never thought of taking your things. Hu Mingxiu said, take it. I made you sad. Speaking of which, it's my fault. Take good things and exercise. It's less harmful to the body. If he didn't exercise properly, it wouldn't be exercising. It would be harmful to the body. Hu Mingxiu said gently, take it. Rong Jingbai looked at Hu Mingxiu without blinking. It was as if she could see a flower. She was full of inquiry. To watch the new chapter of Zui, please go to mobile address. Chapter 3806. Rong Jingbai looked at Hu Mingxiu. Are you sad? Aren't you sad at all? Hu Mingxiu said honestly, I'm a little sad, but I'm not sad. Rong Jingbai's face turned pale and her eyes turned red. But I'm very sad. You're not sad because you don't like me. You're a little interested, but you don't like me. It has nothing to do with love. This was the most unfair and powerless thing in the world. She loved Hu Mingxiu so much, but Hu Mingxiu didn't love or like her. Hu Mingxiu apologized. I'm sorry. He felt that he should be careful in the future. He shouldn't casually fall in love with girls. They seemed to treat him as an extremely close person. He could act coquettishly and get angry, thinking that he should tolerate them. Was there anything wrong with these girls' thoughts? No, but he couldn't tolerate them. He only wanted to have the beautiful side of girls. Seeing Rong Jingbai crying like this, Hu Mingxiu felt guilty in his heart. For a moment, Rong Jingbai wanted to throw away all her self-esteem and kneel down to beg Hu Mingxiu not to break up with her. But she didn't kneel down in the end. Her lips trembled and she didn't say anything to persuade him to stay. She didn't want to leave a worse impression on Hu Mingxiu. She carried the things Hu Mingxiu gave her and turned to leave stiffly. She didn't dare to look back. Hu Mingxiu looked at Rong Jingbai's back and touched his chest. He felt a little sad and a little tight. He shouldn't be so careless. After Rong Jingbai and Hu Mingxiu broke up, she was floating and couldn't get up. She climbed onto the bed and slept for a few days without eating or drinking. Her roommate found that something was wrong and lifted the blanket. Rong Jingbai had fainted from the fever. When she woke up, she was already in the hospital. After the breakup, Rong Jingbai lost a lot of weight. Her energy was also weak. Obviously, she hadn't recovered. Her roommate was very worried that Rong Jingbai would take things too hard. There were people who committed suicide for love. And Rong Jingbai's appearance was a little scary. The news of Rong Jingbai and Hu Mingxiu's breakup had been spread out. Everyone was clear that they were going to break up. Sure enough, history had proven that such things would happen. This time was no exception. Hu Mingxiu was single. Because of the precedent of an ordinary girl like Rong Jingbai, some ordinary girls in the school couldn't help but look forward to it. She looked forward to falling in love with Hu Mingxiu. When Hu Mingxiu ran in the morning, he didn't see Rong Jingbai. At first, he felt a little uncomfortable. After all, someone ran with him every day. The sudden absence of one would definitely make him feel uncomfortable. However, for half a month, Rong Jingbai did not come to run. Hu Mingxiu sighed. She probably gave up on this sport. She probably didn't want to see him when she ran in the morning. Hu Mingxiu felt that it was a pity and actually gave up. Hu Mingxiu continued to run. Rong Jingbai, on the other hand, had no energy to do anything. In the morning, her body woke up automatically under the reminder of her biological clock. She wanted to run, but Rong Jingbai couldn't get up. In class, he was also dumbstruck. It was as if his soul had left his body. Her three roommates were so worried that they kept an eye on her, fearing that Rong Jingbai would commit suicide for love. Rong Jingbai didn't go to Hu Mingxiu, nor did she cry, which made people feel uneasy. Rong Jingbai lost weight at a speed visible to the naked eye, which was unbearable to look at. Dating? The kind that can help one lose weight. It was really worth it. Her roommate couldn't stand Rong Jingbai's half-dead look and said, "Do you want to live or die? Go to Hu Mingxiu. What's the use of you being like this except for being a joke? To be honest, you think you are so infatuated and affectionate, but in the eyes of others, you are actually a joke." Rong Jingbai just listened and didn't speak. She felt that her body had no energy at all. She tried hard to get her life back on track, but there was really no way. She was really uncomfortable and in pain. Rong Jingbai gritted her teeth, ran to the gym, and worked out desperately. She couldn't lift her legs, but she ran desperately. Sweat poured down like rain. Rong Jingbai clenched her teeth tightly, and her eyes were red. Until she was too tired to move, Rong Jingbai started to cry loudly when it was time to take a shower. Her heart-wrenching cry made other people who came to take a shower look at each other. Some people came to the door to ask, but Rong Jingbai ignored them and continued to cry. She didn't know how long she cried. Rong Jingbai washed the tears on her face with water and put on her clothes. Her body was strong. But her heart was still in pain, so much pain. Crying like this, the anger in her heart was released. She probably wanted to vent. If she didn't, she would die. Rong Jingbai tried her best to comfort herself. She had never thought of being with Hu Mingxiu before. Being together with him was a gain. She had held Hu Mingxiu's hand and been called darling by him. She had to be satisfied. How could a person like Hu Mingxiu have a long time with her? Rong Jingbai smiled bitterly. The more she expected, the more she was disappointed, and the more pain she felt. Rong Jingbai felt that she probably really wanted too much. But, her heart was in pain. She couldn't bear to leave Hu Mingxiu. She wanted to get Hu Mingxiu. There were two people in Rong Jingbai's heart. One said to give up and be satisfied. The other said that Hu Mingxiu was so good. She had to get him. Rong Jingbai's head hurt, but they had already broken up. What else could she do? No matter how much she thought, it was useless. Rong Jingbai's body was already strong. She insisted on running every day. When Hu Mingxiu saw Rong Jingbai start running again, he was quite happy. When Rong Jingbai saw Hu Mingxiu, she tried to calm herself down, but in the end, she couldn't. So, she had to avoid Hu Mingxiu and avoid meeting him. The campus was so big. She could definitely avoid him. Perhaps soon, Hu Mingxiu would find a new girlfriend, cute and beautiful. She would become one of his ex-girlfriends. Hu Mingxiu saw that Rong Jingbai was avoiding him. His heart was like a mirror. He just sighed. However, many girls in the school were ready to make a move on Hu Mingxiu. But Hu Mingxiu didn't have any thoughts of falling in love for the time being. Even if he saw cute girls, he thought of their teary eyes when they broke up. Hu Mingxiu's head hurt. He felt that he shouldn't hurt them, but he couldn't promise these girls a long time. He might as well clear his heart and be too lazy to torment himself. Rong Jingbai thought fiercely, what love? Just run. Make yourself busier every day and don't think about Hu Mingxiu. After a long time, she would probably forget and it wouldn't hurt so much. But she didn't regret it. To watch the new chapter of Zoe, please go to, mobile address, you're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.